Chapter 3571. The Ninth Floor. The experts of the various academies let out sharp screams. They were extremely excited to see the deans make a move. Then, everyone looked up at the sky, and their expressions became even more serious. Linling was too scary. Was he going to destroy the various temples? It wasn't hard to imagine that if the deans weren't here, the 36 academies would have been destroyed by Linling. With the 72 deans making a move, the temples finally quieted down. Even the void was silent. Only the dazzling ethereal tower was still emitting a pure white light. The sudden silence made everyone look up at the void. Only then did they realize that Linling was only one step away from the ninth floor. At this moment, Linling's hair was dancing wildly in the ethereal tower, his hands behind his back. In front of him, Wentian Martial God and Luli Empress had disappeared. What was left was a world of gods filled with endless light. I didn't expect that my soul force would be the final trump card, Linling muttered to himself. He originally thought that his soul force could only support him for a few steps, but who knew that it would allow him to reach the ninth floor? Moreover, his soul force was still strong, and there were no signs of it weakening. He never thought that his soul force would be so terrifying unless it was the primal chaos formula. He couldn't help but think about the birth of his soul force. He realized that ever since he started learning martial arts, his soul force had been born with him. After so many years, his soul force had grown continuously, and now it had reached a terrifying level. He stood there quietly, as if he was the ruler of the 9 heavens. It was as if he was telling everyone that he was back. Finally, he slowly stretched out his foot. However, the moment he stretched it out, divine lightning, divine fire, divine water, divine stones, and divine wind attacked him. However, Linling's expression didn't change. He still had his hands behind his back, as if he was walking in his own backyard. All of his soul force exploded at this moment. A heavy stomp had actually crushed all of the power. Linling's figure appeared on the 9th floor. Outside the ethereal tower, Linling's starlight had also reached the 9th floor. Everyone in the 36 academies was stunned. Everyone's hearts rumbled for a long time. Linling, who was in the Saint Realm, had surpassed all other experts and broken the record. He had even reached the legendary 9th level. Unbelievable, simply unbelievable. We won. Miao Di revealed an excited smile. The deans of the 36 academies also revealed excited smiles. The secret of the 9th level had been completely uncovered. I'm ashamed of my inferiority to Linling. Lord Long mumbled to himself in the void. This time, he was thoroughly convinced of his loss. His eyes were filled with disappointment and loneliness. Last time, he had reached the 8th level, but he had not taken that step. This time, he had finally taken that step. He had thought that he could break the record. However, Linling appeared. Seize all the light and glory that belonged to him. At this moment, he, the Lord Dragon, was dim. All the light fell on Linling's body. In the future, Linling's name would undoubtedly be passed down in the 36 academies for thousands of years. At first, Lord Dragon was naturally unconvinced, but when Linling reached the 9th floor, he was convinced. Although I've lost, the divine list has just begun. I hope you won't disappoint me on the divine list. But soon, Lord Dragon pulled himself together and said with fighting spirit, Linling, you've got guts. You've taken everything from me for the second time. Just you wait, the life and death battle between us will come. It will definitely come. On the other side, Duan Wuhan's eyes were full of murderous intent. In the starry sky forest, Linling had destroyed his chance to obtain God's treasure. In the ethereal tower, Linling had once again destroyed his honor. He could not take this lying down. This humiliation could not be resolved even after thousands of years. Of course, this was normal. No one would be able to take this lying down. Duan Wuhan had awakened the number 1 bloodline of the Duan family. Today, he came here to spread his name and let everyone in the final world know of him. As for Duan Wuhan himself, he also had 100% confidence. Just trash from the 36th Academy. How could they compare to him, a 4-talisman god paladin? However, there was someone who had surpassed him, and even surpassed him in skill. That person had trampled Duan Wuhan under his feet. So, how could Duan Wuhan not hate him? He hated him to the heavens. In addition to hatred, he also felt very embarrassed. Especially when he thought of those bold words at the beginning, and then became the number 2, he wished he could dig a hole and crawl into it. Who is this Linling? Why would such a genius appear in our academy? I don't know at all. In the Snow Wind Academy, the old woman in red was muttering to herself. Her withered hands quietly clenched into fists, trembling with excitement. The secret of the 9th floor was finally going to be revealed to the world. Most importantly, the person who announced this news was a student of their Snow Wind Academy. So, it was hard for her not to be proud. At this moment, in the 9th floor, Lin Ling stood there quietly. All the pressure around him had disappeared. And the 9th floor was very quiet, too quiet. There were only misty clouds around, making people feel like they were in a fairyland. Lin Ling was a little cautious, so he did not wander around for the time being. The main thing was that all his strength had been sealed, leaving only his soul force. If he encountered any danger, he would not be able to deal with it. I didn't expect that in this trip to the Transcendence Tower, I would break through 2 levels in a row. I have benefited a lot. As he stood there quietly, Lin Ling muttered to himself. Breaking through 2 levels in a row was no small matter for Lin Ling. Because he had 5 dantians, the cultivation resources needed to break through his dantian could be described as hundreds of times more. So, to be able to break through consecutively, this was a great thing for Lin Ling. Most importantly, there were no hidden dangers in breaking through in the Transcendence Tower. Everything happened naturally. And now, Lin Ling was only a step away from the martial ancestor realm. If he could reach that legendary realm, first, Lin Ling would return to the peak level of Li Xiaoyao in the past. Second, Lin Ling's true inheritance, the Dark Sword, could be unsealed. Third, his 6th dantian could be opened. As more dantians were opened, it would be harder to open them in the future. Currently, Lin Ling could fight those who were a higher level than him because of his 5 dantians and powerful talent. If he opened his 6th dantian, Lin Ling did not dare to imagine how powerful his combat strength would be. As expected, the sealed strength can't come back. Yes. A moment later, Lin Ling stood up. He had no choice but to walk forward. However, along the way, his surroundings were still white, and he did not see any deities. Could it be that the rumors were wrong? Lin Ling could not help but frown. Hey, you mortal from the lower realm, kneel down and greet me. At this moment, a domineering voice came from the front. Moreover, the voice was pleasing to the ear, as if it was the voice of a little girl. Lin Ling was stunned. The 4 deities were not on the 9th floor, but there was a little girl. Chapter 3572. Extreme Imprisoning Divine Rune. The sword was extremely beautiful, as though it was made of crystal. As it spun, Lin Ling felt like kneeling down. He instantly knew that the sword was even more powerful than the true inheritance Dark Sword. It was probably on the same level as the sword hilt. The power of a god. That's right, the sword was emitting the power of a god. Lowly slave, you dare not kneel before me? How audacious! At that moment, an 8 or 9-year-old girl appeared in front of the sword. She crossed her legs and looked down at Lin Ling. Beneath her eyes, an enormous wave of divine energy was pressing down on her. Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. Subconsciously, he stretched his hand behind him, wanting to use the tyrannical Song sword to resist. However, he was shocked to find that the tyrannical Song sword had already been sealed. Moreover, his other methods were the same. The only thing he could use was his soul power. However, his current soul power did not have any attacking power. It was completely unable to resist the girl. You still want to resist? Let me tell you, in front of me, the devouring sky, a lowly slave like you can't resist. Humph. Seeing that Lin Ling still wanted to resist, the girl was instantly unhappy. She spoke arrogantly, her expression extremely cold. An even more powerful pressure of a god enveloped Lin Ling. Lin Ling's expression changed drastically, and he cursed loudly. Who said that he could meet a god on the 9th level? There was no god here. There was only a crazy kid. He had been tricked. However, just as Lin Ling was unable to resist, an ancient power surged out of his body. It was boundless and ancient. On Lin Ling's left arm, vines grew crazily. In a short moment, a primitive forest appeared, drowning the entire hall. This made Lin Ling overjoyed. Right now, all his trump cards had been sealed, but there was still one thing left, which was Little Kunlun. The last time Little Kunlun met God Emperor Zhang Gang imparted a set of divine techniques to it. After that, it fell into a deep sleep. Now Little Kunlun had finally awakened. What is this? After Little Kunlun grew crazily, the girl was clearly somewhat afraid. This was because she sensed a destructive aura from Little Kunlun. It was also very ancient, perhaps even more ancient than her. That damned slave, that lowly slave, actually had such a treasure on him? Whoosh. The demonic plant's little Kunlun. Die. However, the girl was little Kunlun, she also little Kunlun. Dazzling divine Kunlun, sword Kunlun, Kunlun, sword and Kunlun, Kunlun, cutting Kunlun. However, Kunlun's Kunlun, 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 Kunlun n. Moreover, it from Kunlun n Kunlun. God NN of these God NN, NN, NN run NN, NN song NN Kunhead Kunlun. Is. However, the little girl also snorted coldly and said coldly. She flew towards the crystal sword and disappeared within it. The crystal sword's aura instantly rose. However, little Kunlun's Kunlun was not slow either. The plants were growing crazily. If someone were to look from the sky, they would immediately realize that the vines had unknowingly formed a huge, mysterious rune. Moreover, it surrounded the crystal sword and kept shrinking. The crystal sword wanted to release its powerful strength, but the divine rune began to shrink. A boundless energy shrouded the crystal sword and sealed all of its strength. Following that, countless vines stretched out like hands and wrapped around the crystal sword. The crystal sword kept struggling in the sky, but to no avail. This caused it to let out an angry cry. What are you doing? Let me go. If you have the ability, let me go. You dare to touch a god? How dare you? Who are your parents? I will go to your house to complain. You are dead. You dare to touch a god? You are definitely dead. It was obvious that the little girl was very angry, but she could not break free from the vines. Lin Ling watched this scene with his mouth agape. He never imagined that Lil's Kunlun would become so powerful. After all, he could see that the crystal sword was extremely powerful. Even a martial ancestor would not be able to withstand a single strike from it. Even a martial god would not dare to fight against it. However, Lil Kunlun had managed to bind it. Extreme imprisoning rune. At this moment, little Kunlun sent a voice transmission. Lin Ling instantly understood. This was a technique that Emperor God Zhonggang had passed down to little Kunlun. It was said that it could bind a god. Following that, under little Kunlun's continuous explanation, Lin Ling understood more about the extreme imprisoning rune. This was a technique that specialized in breaking the power of a god. Extreme imprisoning rune was exactly what it meant. This meant that without the power of a god, little Kunlun would not be able to unleash such power. Haha. Regardless, Lin Ling was happy for little Kunlun. He then walked towards the crystal sword. Lowly slave, let me go if you have the ability. The crystal sword was still struggling. Little Kunlun, can you grab her out? Lin Ling ignored her and looked at little Kunlun instead. Kunlun. Little Kunlun immediately answered. A mysterious symbol appeared and grabbed the little girl out from the crystal sword. Lin Ling immediately strode forward and grabbed the little girl. He then placed her on his lap. What are you doing? A lowly slave like you actually dared to grab me. It's over, it's over. Aren't you forcing me to destroy this world? The little girl kept shaking her head and was extremely arrogant. Pa! Lin Ling pressed the little girl on his thighs and slapped her, but with his big hand. I'll let you be a slave. I'll let you be a slave. Aren't you very good at bragging? I'll slap your butt right now. Why don't you brag for me to see? God! Let me tell you, I'm hitting a god. Lin Ling shouted angrily. With every word he said, his right hand would slap her fiercely. A crisp slap sound rang out. You dare to hit me. Lowly slave, you're dead. You're definitely dead. As a dignified god, when had the little girl ever been humiliated like this? She was so angry that her face turned red. However, Lin Ling ignored her and slapped her even more fiercely. If the deans of the 36 academies were here, they would probably kneel down one by one. Hitting a god on the 9th floor. Lin Ling must be crazy. In the entire final world, perhaps only he dared to do this. Most importantly, Lin Ling slapped her butt. Dead. Lin Ling became even angrier when he heard the little girl's words. His big hand kept slapping her, and the little girl's but turned red. At first, the little girl was still very stubborn, but gradually, she became afraid after being beaten. Where did this freak come from? She, a god, couldn't even subdue him and was being beaten instead. She had no choice but to accept this. Stop hitting, stop hitting. This time I'll spare you, okay? Looks like you still haven't figured out who's the one hitting who now. Spare me? Lin Ling was so angry that he laughed. He stopped talking nonsense and slapped her even more fiercely. I admit defeat. Stop hitting me. You can do whatever you want. Stop hitting me. Chapter 3573. Grand Brahma Art of Punishment. You don't treat me as a slave anymore? I wouldn't dare. You won't kill me? I wouldn't dare. All right then, if you follow me obediently, I'll let you off this time. After talking for a while, the little girl immediately looked at Lin Ling expectantly. Can you take me out of here? It should be possible. I'll try my best. Lin Ling was immediately suspicious. Could it be that this divine sword could not leave the 9th floor? Great, I promise you, I'll follow you, I'll listen to you, as long as you take me out, I'll do anything you ask me to do. The little girl who was crying a moment ago was now dancing with joy in the next moment. She looked extremely adorable. I don't know how many years I've been here, ever since the era of the gods. I've long been annoyed by this place. It's great to be able to leave this place. The little girl circled around Lin Ling, laughing heartily. Lin Ling stared at her, and a smile appeared on his face. Seeing this little girl, he also thought of Xiaoyu. Of course, Xiaoyu is much more obedient than this little girl. Oh right, what's your name? Lin Ling asked. Devouring Heaven's fortune sword. You can call me Devouring Heaven. Let me tell you, I'm a lower god's divine sword, much more powerful than those true divine weapons. If anyone dares to bully you outside, I'll deal with them for you. Speaking of her background, the little girl became arrogant again. You're so powerful. How come you can't even defeat my little Kunlun? Lin Ling laughed and said, This. The little girl was immediately hit like a frosted eggplant. Her head was lowered. That thing is older than me. Of course I can't beat it. All right, from now on, follow me. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. The reason he wanted to take the little girl away was that he suddenly thought that this sword was very suitable for Yu and the others. With this sword, Yu and the others' strength would undoubtedly increase greatly. From now on, I'll call you Devouring Heaven. Lin Ling said again. All right. The little girl hurriedly followed Lin Ling and disappeared into the crystal sword, hanging by Lin Ling's waist. Lin Ling also continued forward. The 9th floor was still a vast expanse of whiteness, as if there was no end to it. Not long after, an ancient stone house appeared in front of him. The stone house was modeled, as if it had been there for many years. Little Kunlun instantly rose up on Lin Ling's arm like a snake, preventing any sudden incidents from happening. The current Lin Ling, apart from his soul power, could be considered immortal. Therefore, he did not stop little Kunlun from protecting him. He quietly approached the stone house and immediately discovered that there were many ancient words written on the walls of the stone house. However, it seemed that too much time had passed and those words could no longer be seen clearly. Lin Ling pushed open the door and entered. A cloud of dust immediately hit him in the face. After Lin Ling gently swept it away, he immediately discovered that the stone house was extremely simple. There was only a bed, a table, and a chair. There was nothing else. This stone house looked like it was used by ascetic practitioners. However, to cultivate diligently on the 9th floor, they must be some mighty deities. Lin Ling hurriedly walked over and discovered a jade pillow on the bed. He was delighted and quickly wanted to collect it. However, the moment his hand touched it, the jade pillow turned to ashes. This made Lin Ling depressed. Looking at the stone bed again, Lin Ling's eyes burned with desire. This bed should be an extraordinary treasure. However, no matter how hard he tried to move it, the stone bed seemed to have taken root in the ground. Lin Ling finally gave up on this treasure. His gaze landed on the stone table. There was an ancient bamboo scroll on the stone table. It was gently lying on the stone table, as if it had experienced thousands of years. Lin Ling didn't dare to touch the bamboo scroll, afraid that it would turn to ashes. He stared at the bamboo scroll, but discovered that it was a blur. There was nothing on it. If I touch it, this treasure will disappear again. But there's nothing on it. Lin Ling frowned. This can be seen with soul force. At this time, the crystal sword at his waist suddenly emitted a sound of swallowing the heavens. Soul force? Lin Ling was shocked. He quickly released his soul force and checked the bamboo scroll. Unknowingly, words began to appear on the bamboo scroll. Cardinal Great Brahma Punishment Art. This was a deity's cultivation technique. Most importantly, this was a rare soul force martial art. Moreover, to see the words on the bamboo scroll, the prerequisite was that one's soul force had reached level 10,000. And Lin Ling had met this requirement. Lin Ling quietly looked at the bamboo scroll. He couldn't help but feel excited. A soul force martial art cultivated by a deity? At this moment, He carefully looked at it and continued to comprehend this soul force martial art. Time quietly passed like this. At the same time, Lin Ling's soul force also quietly increased. From level 12,000, it quietly reached level 13,000. At the same time, the ancient bamboo scroll seemed to be corroded. Starting from the edges, it gradually turned to ashes. Lin Ling also noticed this point. His eyes turned serious. He had to learn this cardinal great Brahma punishment art before the bamboo scroll completely dissipated. And during this process, his soul power had quietly reached 14,000th level. Level 14,000. Lin Ling didn't know what the soul force of other martial artists who cultivated soul force was like. However, in terms of soul force, he had never seen anyone who could surpass him. Perhaps, level 10,000 was the dividing line. After level 10,000, that was the soul force possessed by a deity. While Lin Ling was comprehending, in the various temples, many people were frowning and quietly waiting. It's already been 3 days. Lin Ling still hasn't appeared. This is too strange. Unknowingly, 3 days had passed in the outside world. Moreover, this didn't stop because Lin Ling still hadn't appeared. Unknowingly, 5 days had passed. The people from the various temples left one after another. Even the martial god of 10 extremities and the Duan lineage martial god in the void left as well. Unknowingly, 10 days had passed. Most of the experts from the various temples had already left, and there weren't many deans left. In the end, 3 months had quietly passed. The only ones left in the temples were the deans and a few others. Most of them had left. There were even people who secretly said, "He hasn't come out for 3 months. This Lin Ling wouldn't have died on the 9th floor, right?" However, at this time on the 9th floor, Lin Ling finally opened his eyes. Looking in front of him, the bamboo scroll had already drifted away with the wind. Next, the stone table, the stone bed, and finally, even the stone house had been annihilated, turning into ashes and disappearing. Everything had turned into nothingness. Lin Ling also stood up, but the corners of his mouth revealed a smile. Although everything had turned into nothingness, he remembered the most precious thing. Cardinal Great Brahma Punishment Art. The divine art of a deity. It was an even rarer soul-type cultivation technique that was cultivated by a mid-level deity. It cultivated fearlessness, courage, comprehension, and perseverance. Among them, great wisdom was the most important. Chapter 3574. Return. The Steps of the Gods was a power that surpassed the power of the gods. It formed a world of its own. As long as someone entered the world, they would be under Lin Ling's control. This was also a great Tao that transcended the void of the universe. In Lin Ling's world, he was the great Tao. If this step of wisdom was combined with the illusory god world, the power would be even stronger. The Steps of the Gods, a cultivation technique cultivated by a true god. Lin Ling muttered to himself. Ancestral power, power of the gods, these were all things that martial artists could cultivate. However, the Steps of the Gods were not something that martial artists could cultivate. Could it be that this meant that the current Lin Ling had become a god? On this point, Lin Ling was not sure. After shaking his head, he walked forward in large strides. A dazzling light appeared in front of him, as if it was the exit. This Lin Ling, I think he's definitely dead. The number of people who were still paying attention to Lin Ling was getting fewer and fewer. Each academy only left 1 or 2 people to check on him. As for those who were quietly waiting, they were immediately unhappy when they were assigned this task. Therefore, they sneered while waiting. And when they passed the news back to the academy, many people rejoiced in their misfortune. Among them, Duan Wuhan had been paying attention to Lin Ling. When he learned that Lin Ling had not come out yet, he was the happiest. As for the Snow Wind Academy, most of them stayed in the temple. It's been 3 months. No one has ever stayed in the God's Tower for so long. Lin Ling should be dead. The white-faced man, Kagura, stared at the sky and suddenly laughed sinisterly. If such words were said a month ago, or even 10 days ago, they would definitely be reprimanded by the dean. But now, the dean and the others were silent because they were not sure how Lin Ling was doing. What a pity. He just created an epic, but in the end, he will stay in the God's Tower forever. However, this is also very good. At least when talking about the God's Tower, no one doesn't know you, Lin Ling, and no one doesn't know our Snow Wind Academy. Kagura laughed again. He was naturally overjoyed. Lin Ling's meteoric rise had undoubtedly placed a huge amount of pressure on him. This was because the Transcendence Tower also showed a cultivator's potential and strength from a different perspective. This meant that Lin Ling was even stronger than him. Fortunately, such an opponent had finally fallen. Lin Ling, why aren't you back yet? Although Tsai Luan and the others also felt that Lin Ling was in trouble, they still believed that Lin Ling would return. He come back? I think it's better for everyone to disperse, lest we waste our cultivation time. Kagura laughed heartily and left the holy palace with her subordinates. However, just as he reached the entrance of the sacred palace, the sky above the sacred palace suddenly changed. A pure white light shone in all directions, and the entire sacred palace became incomparably bright. Moreover, this kind of light was not only in the Snow Wind Academy, but also in the holy temple of the 36 academies, spilling its glory. And within the endless light, a slender figure quietly appeared, and it was becoming clearer and clearer. It was very sacred. It was as if a god had returned from the world of gods. What? The experts who were still quietly waiting in the sacred palace all widened their eyes. Within the boundless light, the figure that looks like the son of God should be Lin Ling. He has returned. The red-clothed old lady of the Snow Wind Academy also revealed an excited smile. He's back. Within the holy palace of the 36 academies, there was only one sentence in everyone's hearts. In the void, young Master Yao and Majin Tianzi had been quietly waiting for Lin Ling. After seeing Lin Ling, they couldn't help but excitedly roar before leaving in relief. Moreover, they planned to tell this exciting news to the God-slaying alliance so that everyone would be happy for Lin Ling. As for the entrance of the holy palace of the Snow Wind Academy, Kagura and the others were tongue-tied. They had just concluded that Lin Ling wouldn't return, but in the next moment, Lin Ling returned with boundless light. This was also a fiery slap to their faces. The light gradually dimmed, and then a figure appeared in the holy palace of the Snow Wind Academy. It was none other than Lin Ling. The moment Lin Ling returned, he could clearly feel that all his methods had returned. He had once again become stronger. No, he was more than twice as strong as before. Before the 3 tests, he was only at the 8th stage of the Sage Realm. Now, he was at the 10th stage of the Sage Realm. Moreover, his soul force had greatly increased. Most importantly, he had obtained a god's divine sword. Sweeping his gaze, Lin Ling saw the excited crowd and immediately returned a smile. Lin Ling, you're back. I admire you. You're finally back. I've been waiting for 3 months. This is nothing. Even if I had to wait for 300 years, I would still be willing. The love-struck fools of the Snow Wind Academy were about to go crazy. If at the beginning, their worship of Lin Ling was at its peak, then now it was the craziest. After all, the 3 tests were filled with endless glory. How could they not worship him? My goal was to become the first in the 3 halls, but I didn't expect that the 3 tests would take so long. Ignoring those crazy voices, Lin Ling's eyes flickered as he sighed inwardly. Lin Ling, congratulations on becoming the first in the history of the God's Tower. The vice principal, teacher Tsai Luan, and the others all ran over. As for Tian Ao, Luo Wuchang, and the others, they looked at Lin Ling excitedly. They seemed to be even happier than Lin Ling. Tian Ao, you should learn more from him. The red-clothed old lady looked at Tian Ao and said. The 2 of them looked at each other with a hint of kinship in their eyes. Lin Ling, follow me. After that, the red-clothed old lady looked at Lin Ling and said. The worry on her face finally disappeared and was replaced with unconcealable joy. Because of Lin Ling, their Snow Wind Academy's name had shaken the entire world. In the future, when she met the other principals in the 36 academies, she would be able to speak with her chest held high. Lin Ling was puzzled. However, the vice principal and the others immediately explained to him. Lin Ling nodded in realization. So that's the principal. Immediately, he followed the red-clothed old lady and left. Everyone looked at Lin Ling with envy. After all, in the history of the Snow Wind Academy, only Lin Ling was able to be named by the principal. When Lin Ling walked towards the principal, the red-clothed old lady smiled and waved her right hand. The sound of crashing waves could be heard. Terrifying waves appeared and rolled. At the same time, a powerful force enveloped Lin Ling's body and carried him on the waves. He rushed out of the holy palace like a king. Wow! Everyone exclaimed again. They were extremely envious. Lin Ling was shocked. The power controlled by the principal was so strong that he could not resist at all. This should be the power of a god. However, Lin Ling could not resist. However, tyrannical singing sword jumped up as if he wanted to resist. Of course, he was also suppressed by Lin Ling. After all, he knew that the principal was not trying to harm him. She was just trying to bring him away. Chapter 3575. Supreme token. Of course, Lin Ling was also stopped. Lin Ling realized that he had a few trump cards up his sleeves if he wanted to resist the power of God. Among them, the Grand Brahma punishment art had reached the step of wisdom, which should be able to resist the power of God. However, the step of God consumed a lot of soul power. Stepping on the waves, Lin Ling headed deeper into the Snow Wind Academy. Speaking of which, this was the first time he was looking at the whole Snow Wind Academy. In the end, Lin Ling discovered that the Snow Wind Academy was much bigger than he had imagined. There were mountains, rivers, and even an ocean. Furthermore, Lin Ling sensed that there were many experts hidden in the Snow Wind Academy. Why is this place so weak? What a bunch of lowly slaves. Devouring Heaven's disdainful voice suddenly sounded from Lin Ling's waist. However, there was also a hint of excitement in its voice. Clearly, after Lin Ling brought it out of the Transcendence Tower, it was finally free. Lin Ling couldn't be bothered with it. He continued to step on the waves as he advanced. Not long after, on a mountain peak that reached the clouds, the principal was already waiting there. When he saw Lin Ling, he immediately smiled and said, "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." After saying that, a mysterious energy floated out and enveloped Lin Ling's body. It was as if the principal was investigating something. However, Lin Ling sensed that the principal wasn't checking his cultivation, but whether he was injured. This made Lin Ling's heart warm. This was also the first time he had met the principal. However, the principal didn't ask about the Transcendence Tower, but checked whether Lin Ling was safe and sound. This warmed his heart greatly. Seeing that Lin Ling was fine, the principal heaved a sigh of relief. Only then did she look at Lin Ling and ask, "What did you see on the 9th floor?" Afraid that Lin Ling would misunderstand, she smiled and said, "Because all the principals of the 36 academies are paying attention to this matter. That's why I'm asking." The 9th floor of the Transcendence Tower was a secret of the 36 academies. It was no wonder that all the principals were curious. "Have you met the gods?" the president asked again. Lin Ling laughed awkwardly. "I didn't see any of the 4 great deities on the 9th floor, but I seem to have met one of them." "Oh, what god? Did he say anything to you?" The dean's eyes lit up. "This." Lin Ling was a bit embarrassed, but he still said, "It's a very ancient god. He didn't say anything to me, but his personality is a bit strange, what's wrong?" The dean grew even more curious. "So I spanked her," Lin Ling said truthfully. Puff! Hearing this, the dean almost vomited blood. Spanking a god's butt? What kind of joke was this? Even if she told this to the principals, they probably wouldn't believe her. Lin Ling seemed to know the dean's doubts, and he took out the sword of devouring good fortune from his waist. Lin Ling felt that the dean was very sincere to him, so he didn't hide this god's sword from her. The moment the sword appeared, a colorful light illuminated the entire mountain. An ancient god's aura pressed down. The dean was stunned at first, but then her expression changed drastically. She had cultivated for many years and was very knowledgeable. Naturally, she could sense an extremely ancient aura from the crystal sword. This aura didn't appear in the current era. Therefore, this sword was definitely a god's sword. This also meant that Lin Ling had indeed met a god. "Damned old hag, why aren't you kneeling when you see this god?" At this time, a girl floated out of the crystal sword and looked coldly at the dean as she spoke arrogantly. After the girl appeared, the dean was even more shocked because she could clearly sense that the aura of a god on the girl had become even denser. She was so scared that she almost knelt down. "Devouring Heaven, don't be rude. Otherwise, don't blame me for spanking your butt." At this time, Lin Ling immediately said sternly, "Spanking my butt again? You're too bad. If it weren't for that damned vine, I wouldn't be afraid of you." Speaking of spanking, Devouring Heaven stomped its feet in annoyance and then disappeared into the crystal sword. The crystal sword also floated back to Lin Ling's waist. Looking at the dean again, she was covered in cold sweat. After seeing Devouring Heaven leave, she let out a sigh of relief. A god. A god on the 9th floor. So there really was a god on the 9th floor. Then, she couldn't help but be excited. The unsolved mystery of the 9th floor had been completely solved. Lin Ling looked at her speechlessly. It was just a god. Was there a need to be so excited? He didn't know that very few of the 36 deans had seen a god. Therefore, they were naturally excited to see the most ancient god. As for Lin Ling, he had already seen a few gods so far, which was why he felt that everything was normal. By the way, you said spanking? Don't tell me you spanked a gods, but... Then, the dean suddenly thought of something and immediately blinked. Yes. Lin Ling immediately nodded obediently. Pfft. The dean had the urge to vomit blood again. Previously, she thought that Lin Ling was lying, but now it seemed that it was all true. But there was a problem. How should she explain it to the other deans? Should she say that Lin Ling had gone to the 9th floor and spanked a god's butt? If she said that, it would probably cause a stir in all 36 academies. The dean couldn't help but shake her head gloomily. She could only find some excuses to deal with it. However, she was also surprised by Lin Ling's means. He actually had a god by his side and was extremely afraid of Lin Ling. It seemed that Lin Ling had a secret that no one knew. Of course, every martial artist had their own secrets, so the dean didn't ask. Originally, I wanted to reward you with a Chaos Whole Spirit tablet. This tablet can withstand 3 attacks from a half-step martial god. But now it seems that it's not necessary because with that divine sword, its power will definitely be stronger than a spirit tablet. The dean looked at Lin Ling and said, "How about this? I'll give you a Snow Wind Supreme token. Seeing the token is the same as seeing the dean. How about it?" Okay. Lin Ling immediately nodded. The dean immediately took out a golden token from his bosom and handed it over to Lin Ling. This supreme token has the power to decide life and death battles. Not only in the Snow Wind Academy, but also in the final world. This kind of supreme token, every academy only has 3. It is priceless and was bestowed by the gods. The authority to kill? Lin Ling couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. Because in the final world, one can't casually kill people. This point is very clear to him. Just like the Duan family and the New Heavenly Court, they have long wanted to kill Lin Ling. But because of the rules of the final world, they didn't dare to take action. Unless Lin Ling went to the 9 continents. However, they didn't dare to kill Lin Ling, but Lin Ling has the Snow Wind Supreme token. He doesn't need a reason to kill people. Chapter 3576. Young Master Yao's Visit. I understand, thank you, Principal. Lin Ling hurriedly bowed. No need to thank me. You have helped our Snow Wind Academy raise its fame. This is what you deserve. Also, do you have any other requests? The principal smiled. I want to become the number 1 in Shinsan Hall. Is that possible? You've just passed the Transcendence Hall, and according to the rules, you've only just become an expert of the 3rd hall. There's still a long way to go before you can become the number 1 expert of the Snow Wind Academy. However, you've broken the record of the Transcendence Tower and reached the 9th floor. Therefore, you're qualified to become the number 1 expert of the 3rd hall of the Snow Wind Academy. How about this? Go and complete a mission. That way, you'll become the number 1 expert of the 3rd hall. All right. Lin Ling immediately nodded. The principal looked at Lin Ling with admiration and said, Rest assured, this mission is not difficult. It's just a formality. Oh right, when you were in Tongshan Tower, how could you have walked so far? Of course, if it's not convenient to say, you don't need to say it. This old woman is just curious. Soul Force. Lin Ling smiled, hiding the primal chaos divine formula and using Soul Force as an excuse. Soul Force? The principal's eyes narrowed. How much Soul Force does that require? At least 10,000 steps. Lin Ling said word by word. The principal's eyes gradually widened. How can there be a martial artist with a Soul Force of 10,000 steps? My Snow Wind Academy has been around for so many years, but there has never been a student with a Soul Force of 10,000 steps. In the current final world, everyone pursued talent. Soul Force has long been abandoned, except for those boundary masters of God Miao's true inheritance. But as far as she knows, there is no boundary master of God Miao's true inheritance with a Soul Force of 10,000 steps. 10,000 steps is said to be a huge dividing line. Seeing the principal's shocked expression, Lin Ling only smiled, because since he started learning martial arts, Soul Force has always been his strongest domain. It is normal for others to not be able to surpass him. Lin Ling, what is your Soul Force level? The principal asked curiously. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and said indifferently, 14,000 steps. Silence. As soon as Lin Ling finished speaking, the entire mountain fell silent. The principal looked at Lin Ling as if she was looking at a monster and did not speak for a long time. Obviously, she had not expected that the Snow Wind Academy would have such a freak. As expected of the monster who broke the record of the ethereal tower. After a long time, the principal sighed. She had a feeling that in the future, Lin Ling would definitely surpass the 10 extreme martial gods. At that time, the Snow Wind Academy might even be able to bask in the glory of Lin Ling. How about you complete a mission in half a month? When the time comes, I'll get the vice president to inform you. Okay. After chatting for a long time, Lin Ling finally left. He did not linger in the academy, but instead returned to his own courtyard in a low-key manner. Big Brother Ling. After a long time, when Lin Ling returned to the courtyard, Yu and the others immediately rushed out with incomparable joy. In these 3 months, they had been waiting for Lin Ling's news, and they believed that Lin Ling would definitely be safe and sound. And yesterday, the old woman and Song Chiri finally returned with good news, which made Yu and the others excited. Congratulations, my lord. Do Kening looked at Lin Ling and said with a sigh. In the past, he was an assassin of the Flying Dragon organization. At that time, he was stronger than Lin Ling, but who would have thought that in such a short period of time, Lin Ling would surpass him? And now, Lin Ling had even revealed his talent in the final world. And he, Do Kening, was still in the same place. It was difficult for him to break through to the next realm, and that was all thanks to Lin Ling. Who would have thought that the former 9 States Devil's son, Lin Ling, would reach such a height today? Perhaps the Flying Dragon organization regretted it very much. Because of a previous decision, they were now opposing Lin Ling. And seeing Lin Ling's growth, they should be half dead with anger. Lin Ling also greeted everyone one by one. Young master, you're amazing. You broke the record of the Tower of Gods. TSK, that Tower of Gods has existed for millions of years, and this is the first time I've heard of someone reaching the 9th level. Song Chiri also looked at Lin Ling in awe. If in the past he was in awe of Lin Ling because of Lei Gong, then now he was truly in awe of Lin Ling's growth speed. I was just lucky. Lin Ling smiled faintly and looked at the old woman. The dean of the Snow Wind Academy said that as long as I complete the academy's mission, I can become the number 1 in the Shunsan Hall. With the record that the young lord has created, I'm afraid that this mission is just a formality. So, it seems that the young lord will complete the trial of God. The old woman said with a smile. After completing the divine trial, he would be rewarded by Lei Gong. At that time, Lin Ling's strength would also be greatly improved. Oh right, I obtained a sword on the 9th level. At this time, Lin Ling took out the Devouring Heaven's Fortune Sword. When this crystal sword appeared, everyone was shocked. This sword is very extraordinary. The old woman's face was incomparably dignified. You lowly slaves, kneel down when you see this god. From the Devouring Heaven's Fortune Sword, Devouring Heaven floated out. With one hand on her waist, she pointed at everyone and said. But when she pointed at Lin Ling, she immediately became dispirited. But even so, everyone could still feel the terrifying majesty of a god from her body. All right, Devouring Heaven, these are all our people. You don't have to put on an act. Be careful, or I'll smack your butt. At this time, Lin Ling had no choice but to sternly reprimand Devouring Heaven. Devouring Heaven did not dare to be so arrogant. Among everyone, she was the most afraid of Lin Ling. Of course, she was actually afraid of little Kunlun. Remember, from today onwards, you will follow this sister and protect them. Lin Ling pointed at Yu and the rest and said, You want me, a noble god, to protect people? I won't do it. Tunti Heaven was immediately indignant, but when she saw Xiaoyu, her eyes lit up. It was unknown if it was because of a child's playful attitude, or because Xiaoyu had a mysterious aura, but her attitude immediately changed. She agreed immediately. This surprised Lin Ling. But since Devouring Heaven was willing to cooperate, it was naturally for the best. In the following days, Lin Ling did not go anywhere. Instead, he accompanied Yu and the rest and cultivated at the same time. After the trip to the ethereal tower, Lin Ling's strength had increased greatly. So, he was one step closer to the martial ancestor realm. Moreover, Lin Ling had learned the steps of wisdom. This powerful force depended on the increase of one's soul power. However, it was very difficult to increase one's soul power. So, for the time being, Lin Ling did not learn this martial art anymore. On this day, two people suddenly came to the small courtyard. Lin Ling. Before the two of them entered the small courtyard, they had already called out excitedly. Hearing those voices, Lin Ling was immediately surprised. His body moved and appeared in the small courtyard. Then he laughed loudly at the two people who had just arrived. Chapter 3577. Sky Sword. Haha, I didn't expect you to be hiding here. When young Master Yao saw Lin Ling, he immediately pounded Lin Ling's chest. Although Majin Tianzi was still cold, a warm smile appeared on his face. How did you guys find this place? Lin Ling asked curiously after laughing. We just happened to pass by here, plus you are a student of the Snow Wind Academy, so we know that you are in the Snow Wind City. The most important thing is that after entering the Snow Wind City, we casually asked the guards, and those guys actually know where you live and respectfully let us here. Young Master Yao immediately spoke. Of course, he had a puzzled expression on his face when he mentioned the guards because those guards were too polite to him. Lin Ling was not surprised. The guards were the city lord's men, so they would definitely give face to Lin Ling. Putting everything else aside, Lin Ling, you're really amazing. You actually broke the record of the ethereal tower and reached the 9th level. Yeah, there's no one in the 36 academies who doesn't know you, Lin Ling. It's so satisfying. Even the God Slayer Alliance is remembered by them. When they talk about the God Slayer Alliance, all of them are full of admiration. Haha, it's so satisfying. Young Master Yao suddenly mentioned the ethereal tower. When he mentioned it, even Majin Tianzi became excited. I was just lucky. Come in and have a seat. Lin Ling smiled casually and invited the two into the house. Yu Yu and Xian Yuan Gub immediately bowed and hurriedly poured tea for him. Young Master Yao was envious when he saw how virtuous they were. He secretly pounded Lin Ling and said, Brother, you're really something. Previously in Yen Province, the saintess of the Immortal Temple almost lost her life for you. Who knew that you had two virtuous wives hidden in your house? TSK, both of them are very beautiful. Most importantly, they're very obedient. That's right, brother. Give me some pointers. How did you conquer these beauties and make them so obedient? Majin Tianzi said enviously. Hearing this, Lin Ling laughed out loud. I didn't teach him much. Let nature take its course. He's a man. He should have the domineering aura of a man. That's how the head of a family should be. Being envied by young Master Yao and the others, Lin Ling was in a good mood as well. Yu Yu and the others secretly smiled. Naturally, they knew that Lin Ling was bragging, but they didn't interrupt him. In front of outsiders, they would definitely give Lin Ling enough face. Men were like this. No matter how much they loved their wives, they still liked to put on airs in front of outsiders. Oh right, where's my big brother? After Yu Yu poured the tea, Lin Ling couldn't help but ask. They are still at Kaiyuan River. Young Master Yao and Majin Tianzi looked at each other and immediately explained. It turned out that the God Slayer Alliance had entered Kaiyuan River some time ago and found a secret realm. Everyone entered it to cultivate. The secret realm was extraordinary and seemed to be related to the gods. However, everyone's opportunities were limited. Therefore, some of the members of the God Slayer Alliance left the secret realm quickly, while others were still in the secret realm. Of course, those who were still in the secret realm would undoubtedly obtain more benefits. Your big brother, Menglu, Wanguwuji, Yishui, and the others are still in the secret realm. However, don't worry. I have arranged for the experts of the God Slayer Alliance to guard outside the secret realm. They should be fine. That's right. On the contrary, they have obtained their own opportunities. Their strength might increase greatly. Young Master Yao and Majin Tianzi said. Hearing this, Lin Ling immediately relaxed. At the same time, he hoped that Sakura and the others would obtain their own opportunities. We passed by here to see you. Secondly, we are here for the Divine Weapon Contest. Young Master Yao said. Divine Weapon Contest? Lin Ling couldn't help being puzzled. Young Master Yao smiled and nodded. You should have heard of Yishui's origin, right? She is from God Miao's true teachings. This Divine Weapon Contest is held by them. Frankly speaking, it is an auction. However, the treasures being auctioned are all from God Miao's true teachings. One must know that as the #1 World Spiritist Alliance in the 9 provinces, God Miao's treasures are definitely extraordinary. There are many divine weapons, treasures, and even incomplete scriptures left behind by the gods. For this divine weapon contest, the 36 academies, the various dukes' mansions and clans in the Miao province will all be there. There are even people in the 9 provinces who have entrusted the seniors of the final world to help them purchase some items that they like. Lin Ling, are you interested in this divine weapon contest? You must know that this divine weapon contest is held once every 100 years. The location is randomly selected from the 36 main cities. The treasures that appear are also rarely seen in 10,000 years. Hearing that, Lin Ling immediately sank into contemplation. Currently, because he broke through 2 levels in a row, he didn't have many royal crystals left. However, a divine weapon contest like this was something that could only be encountered by chance. Of course, Lin Ling didn't need divine weapons. He had the true teachings of the Nether Sword and the Tyrant Song Sword. These divine weapons were definitely better than those that appeared in the auction. What Lin Ling cared about were natural treasures. If he could encounter treasures from the Dragon Clan or treasures with overflowing ferocious aura, they could greatly increase Lin Ling's strength. As for royal crystals, Lin Ling suddenly thought of the Snow Wind Supreme Badge. That treasure could be borrowed without limit. Thus, if he saw a suitable treasure, he would buy it first. Immediately, Lin Ling nodded. Young Master Yao and the others were not surprised by Lin Ling's nod. The 3 of them discussed and decided to set off tomorrow. As for the location of the divine weapon contest, it was called the Heaven Sword City. This was a main city, and it also had an academy called the Heaven Sword Academy. Early the next morning, Lin Ling brought everyone and followed young Master Yao and the others to the Heaven Sword City. Yu Yu and the others had waited for Lin Ling in the Snow Wind City for 3 months. So when they came out this time, they were all incomparably happy. The Heaven Sword Academy has gathered the strongest swordsmen in the history of the 9 prefectures. Now that we're holding a competition in their territory, there will definitely be a lot of people from the Heaven Sword Academy participating. In my opinion, there are also quite a few people from the 36th Academy. For example, the Snow Wind Academy is closer to the Heaven Sword City, so they definitely won't miss it. On the way, young Master Yao and the others said. Half a day later, an ancient city finally appeared in front of them. The city was completely black, as if it was built from black rocks. A huge ancient sword was inserted into the ground, and it could be seen even from tens of thousands of miles away. And that was the Heaven Sword City. According to the legends, that sword is called the Heaven Sword. It's a true divine weapon. Young Master Yao stared at the ancient sword in the distance and said in shock. Lin Ling was also looking at it. He discovered that the sword was majestic and ancient. It was indeed worthy of the name Heaven Sword. However, it was a divine weapon. Lin Ling also had a rough idea of its grade. For example, his true inheritance, the Nether Sword, was a divine weapon. However, divine weapons were also divided into grades. For example, the Sword of Devouring Heaven's Fortune and the Tyrant Song Sword. These swords were clearly more powerful than the true inheritance, the Nether Sword. They should be lesser divine weapons. Chapter 3578. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio, the 2 prides of the Duan family. Not long after, Lin Ling and the others finally arrived at the Heaven Sword City. Looking around, the city was grand and boundless, but it was also extremely lively. There was a sea of people, and the noise was incessant. However, the most eye-catching thing was still the gigantic heavenly sword. Upon closer inspection, one would realize how terrifying this sword was because it towered into the clouds, as if it had sliced the firmament of the final world in half. The venue of the auction was under the gigantic sky sword. Lin Ling and the rest walked in that direction. Before they arrived, they realized that there were all kinds of stalls around them. Treasures from the final world, the world of gods, and various gods' relics were scattered on the ground, emitting all kinds of magical lights. Moreover, there were countless roads leading to the sky sword. Every road was filled with people and stalls on both sides of the road. So many people. Yu Yu and Xianyuan Gub looked at each other. They couldn't help but be shocked. Even Lin Ling was shocked. He had attended many auctions before. However, it was his first time encountering one like this. There were too many people. This way. At that moment, young Master Monster's voice was heard. Lin Ling and the rest quickly followed him. Young Master Monster had found a road with fewer people. It was obviously much more convenient. Hey, isn't this Lin Ling? Not long after they walked along the road, a sinister voice was heard from behind them. Then the crowd parted. More than 10 figures strode forward. The leader was a handsome young man. He had his hands behind his back and was looking at Lin Ling with a cold smile. Duan Tianzhan. It was the guy Lin Ling had met on the hidden fog island. Back then, Lin Ling had tortured him badly. As for young Master Monster and Ma Jinzi, they looked at Lin Ling curiously. They were not familiar with Duan Tianzhan. He's from the Duan family. Lin Ling immediately explained when he saw their confusion. I see. Young Master Yao and the others immediately nodded. It's really you. I didn't expect a country bumpkin like you to be in the mood to participate in the Conference of Divine Weapons. But I'm a little worried for you. The Conference of Divine Weapons is held by the true teachings of Miao Shen. The treasures are priceless. Do you think you're qualified to buy them? At that time, if you take a fancy to some treasure but can't afford it, that would be embarrassing. Duan Tianzhan suddenly laughed loudly, his words full of mockery. In his opinion, there was no doubt that the price of the God Weapon contest would be exorbitant. It could easily cost 1 billion or even 10 billion monarch crystals. Ordinary people did not have the right to get involved. They could only watch from the sidelines. Only true powerhouses and great powers had the qualifications to purchase divine artifacts. Therefore, this led to a situation where the strong became stronger and the weak became weaker. As for Lin Ling, although his strength was not bad, he was not from a large family clan in the final world. Therefore, Duan Tianzhan thought that Lin Ling was a pauper who could not afford a divine weapon and had come here to embarrass himself. Some people just don't feel comfortable if they don't talk nonsense. Didn't you learn your lesson when you were stripped naked last time? Duan Tianzhan was overbearing, and Lin Ling immediately retaliated. Duan Tianzhan was furious. Last time on the Hidden Fog Island, he had been stripped naked by Lin Ling and had knelt down to beg for mercy. That was the greatest humiliation in his life. Lin Ling, don't think that you're powerful just because you broke the Tower of God's record. You can't even enter the divine list or the stairway to heaven. You only relied on luck. In terms of strength, you're nothing. Duan Tianzhan shouted angrily. Hearing that, Lin Ling smiled mockingly and did not bother to talk nonsense. If he, Lin Ling, was weak, then what about Duan Tianzhan? Last time, he had been beaten to the point where he knelt down to beg for mercy. If Duan Tianzhan was weaker than him, was he nothing? Duan Tianzhan was so silly. Mocking him was equivalent to slapping his own face. Broke the Tower of God's record? Could he be the expert from Snow Wind Academy? I think so, because he's indeed at the Sage Realm. It's said that the person who broke the Divine Body Tower's record was at the Sage Realm. Amazing. When the surrounding people heard Duan Tianzhan's words, they were all shocked. They looked at Lin Ling with shock and admiration in their eyes. Duan Tianzhan wanted to mock Lin Ling, but he did not expect everyone to be shocked. He was so angry that his teeth were itching. What? Disciple of the Duan clan, you're not convinced? Why don't we fight? I can guarantee that I'll break all your teeth. At this time, young Master Yao stepped forward and said coldly. He could also see that Duan Tianzhan was here to cause trouble. Young Master Yao, if you break his teeth, I'll break his third leg. Majin Tianzi also said coldly. Seeing young Master Yao and the others walk out, and thinking of Lin Ling's strength, Duan Tianzhan obviously felt a little guilty. He said coldly, a bunch of people who can't even enter the divine list only know how to talk big. Let me tell you, this is Heaven Sword City. Don't mess around. When he said this, he quietly took a step back. His face was full of fear. The surrounding people laughed. They could also see that Duan Tianzhan was here to cause trouble, but they did not expect him to be so afraid of death. Cowardly bandit. Even Lin Ling smiled mockingly. He could not be bothered to teach a weakling like Duan Tianzhan a lesson. Who are you? How dare you scold our Duan family? However, at this time, a large number of people came from afar. This group of people was extremely powerful. When the crowd saw their clothes and the jade pendants hanging on their bodies, they quietly made way for them. This was because the jade pendants hanging on their waists had two clear words, Stairway to Heaven. This meant that these people were all experts on the divine list. They were the most powerful people in the divine 3 halls of the various academies. The experts on the divine list were also extremely famous in the final world. These people could fight against a half-step martial god and could not be defeated by a martial god. Tianzhan. The person walking at the front was extremely tall. He held a long golden spear in his hand and looked majestic. Wherever he passed, There seemed to be a powerful force that quietly pushed the crowd away. Many people could see that this person's talent, cultivation level, and martial arts foundation were all extremely powerful. Brother Wujan. Duan Tianzhan was obviously excited when he saw the person who had come. The man immediately nodded his head and looked at Lin Ling and the others. He said indifferently, "For the sake of the Heaven Sword City, we will not bother about this matter. Give yourselves 3 slaps and then scram out of my sight." His words were extremely domineering. Who else could do it but me? Of course, with his strength, he was qualified to be domineering. However, Lin Ling and young Master Yao looked at each other and laughed. After practicing martial arts for so many years, they had lost count of the number of arrogant and unruly people like this man. "I'll give you 2 words, idiot." Lin Ling could not be bothered to talk nonsense. He simply retorted, The man's eyes narrowed. "Idiot." Chapter 3579. Go to the 9th level. Looks like you think I won't dare to touch you just because you're in Heaven Sword City. The man's eyes turned golden, and divine light shone from his body, silencing the entire street. The light of a divine paladin. It looks like he's above a 2-talisman divine paladin. This person seems to be from the Duan clan, and Wujan? Could it be Duan Wujan? The Duan clan's twin prides. There was no lack of experts from other academies around, and they all recognized the man. The Duan clan's twin prides were Duan Wuhan and Duan Wujan. However, Duan Wuhan had awakened the first bloodline, and his strength had greatly surpassed Duan Wujan's, so he was no longer one of the Duan clan's twin prides. However, Duan Wujan was once one of the Duan clan's twin prides, so his strength was naturally not weak. In the Battle of Guang City Mountain, this person once defeated an elder of the 9 states' 10 rapscallions. Moreover, in Guangzhou Island, this person fought 10 world wills without losing. That was the battle that made him famous. This is a true expert. There was a flurry of discussion all around. However, Duan Wujan's expression was calm, as if they were not talking about him. Perhaps he was already used to this kind of moment. On the other hand, Duan Tianzhan was dancing with joy, extremely excited. He stared at Lin Ling and the others, raised his chin, and said, "Do you know fear now? Where did this clown come from? Get out of my sight." However, Lin Ling only glanced at Duan Wujan indifferently. His attitude still did not change. This time, Duan Tianzhan was stunned. Duan Wujan was also stunned. Duan Wujan's friends behind him were also stunned. They never thought that Lin Ling and the others would be so bold, because Lin Ling and the others did not look like experts on the divine list at all. How boring. There are always clowns in the way. Lin Ling spoke again, then led young Yao and the others forward. "How dare you?" The golden spear in Duan Wujan's hand jumped, and a terrifying murderous aura also rolled. "Brother Wujan, he's Lin Ling who broke the Divine Tower's record. Don't mess around." However, Duan Tianzhan finally calmed down and reminded him in a low voice. "It's him." Duan Wujan's expression changed slightly. The fact that Lin Ling had broken the record in the Ethereal Tower had shocked the 36 academies, and he was the pride of the 36 academies. As such, he could not afford to make a move on Lin Ling. If he dared to touch Lin Ling, that would be the same as challenging the 36 academies. No wonder he's so arrogant. Turns out he really does have a little bit of martial arts. However, he's lucky, because if we were in the 9 provinces, or in a place where there's no one, I'd definitely knock him down with a spear. Duan Wujan said through gritted teeth as he led the people behind him forward. It's said that quite a few divine artifacts will appear in this divine artifact contest. There's an 8 tribes divine spear that I absolutely must get. However, if I want to get it, I'll have to stand at a higher level. Let's go to the 9th floor, Duan Wujan said as he walked. He glanced at Lin Ling and the others, who were not too far away, and said mockingly, "Trash like them can only look up to us from below the 9th floor." The 9th floor was undoubtedly the highest floor of the auction house. Those who appeared there had priority in auctioning treasures, and they were also qualified to buy many treasures, unlike those below the 9th floor, where many treasures were not qualified to be fought over. However, ordinary people could not go to the 9th floor. The lowest requirement was to be an expert on the god list. Moreover, even the 9th floor was divided into levels. The highest level was the god list treasure room, where any treasure could be fought over. Duan Wujan and his friends were all experts on the god list, so they were naturally qualified. Of course, They were only qualified to go to the 9th floor. Brother Wu Zhan, I also want to go to the 9th floor. Can I? Duan Tianzhan was not yet an expert on the god list, so he asked expectantly. Of course you can. On the 9th floor, any expert on the god list can bring a follower. I can bring you, Duan Wuzhan said proudly. Their voices were not soft, and it was obvious that they did it on purpose, so the people around them were envious. Most of the martial artists on this road could only go to the treasure rooms below the 9th floor, so how could they not be envious? Young Yao, let's go to the 9th floor. Yes. Right at that moment, Lin Ling, who was walking in front, suddenly said something. It seemed like a casual sentence, but it caused the entire road to instantly fall silent. Everyone looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. The reason for that was because Duan Wuzhan was an expert on the god list. He was most definitely qualified to go. But what was Lin Ling? He seemed to be nothing. Lin Ling couldn't possibly be thinking that he was qualified to go just because he broke the record of the god's tower, right? One must know that behind the auction was God Miao's true teachings. The World Spiritist Alliance simply did not care about the god's tower at all. Lin Ling, could it be that you've become an expert on the god list? Beside Lin Ling, Young Yao and the others were also shocked. Then, joy appeared on their faces as they guessed. For someone of Lin Ling's age, other than becoming an expert on the god list, it was impossible for him to enter the 9th floor. After all, it was impossible for Lin Ling to be the city lord, and even more impossible for him to be the headmaster of the various academies. Yet, Lin Ling had become an expert on the god list. With his strength, it might be possible for Lin Ling to become an expert on the god list. However, Lin Ling poured cold water on them, saying, I'm still not an expert on the god list. Ah, Young Yao and the others were stunned. Then they sighed in their hearts. Perhaps Lin Ling did not know the rules of the auction, and that was why he had said that earlier. Haha, this guy by the name of Lin Ling, could it be that he's gone mad? Does he think that any trash can enter the 9th floor? Duan Wuzhan could not help but laugh loudly after hearing Lin Ling's words. Idiot, absolute idiot. Duan Tianzhan also laughed mockingly. In fact, he was laughing very happily. Never had he imagined that Lin Ling would come out and embarrass himself. However, Lin Ling paid no attention to their mockery and continued to walk forward. Not long after, a huge sky sword appeared in front of them. It was a sword pagoda, grand and sacred. Looking at the surrounding roads, people continued to arrive at the bottom of the sword pagoda. There were many platforms under the sword pagoda that carried people to the various floors. Lin Ling glanced at them indifferently. Then he led Young Yao and the others onward. This guy, he can't really be going to the 9th floor, right? This guy is not an expert on the god list, nor is he the city governor. What right does he have to go to the 9th floor? You have to know the rules of the sacred artifact contest. No one will be given face. Yeah, Miao Shen's true disciple is a boundary master. Boundary masters are a group of people of virtue and prestige. They will only give face to big shots like the city governor and the dean. That guy is looking for trouble. He's going to suffer. The people who had been following Lin Ling all this while mocked him. What's going on here? It's so lively. As the saying went, there was no need to be afraid of trouble. People from other roads also came to join in the fun. Many people immediately revealed what had happened. Waha, there's such a stupid person. Chapter 3580. Arrogant words. As for Duan Tianzhan and the others, they were laughing so hard that they almost fell off their horses, especially Duan Tianzhan. Previously, Lin Ling had stripped him naked and forced him to kneel on the street. He had been brooding over this incident. He had wanted to take revenge, but in the end, Lin Ling had broken the Tongshan Tower's record. This made him realize that his chances of revenge were getting slimmer and slimmer. But now he saw a glimmer of hope. Moreover, this glimmer of hope was obtained by Lin Ling himself. Haha! At this thought, Duan Tianzhan laughed loudly again. His hatred for Lin Ling had also been reduced by half. Duan Tianzhan, why are you laughing so happily? Don't tell me you think I can't reach the 9th level. However, at this moment, Lin Ling suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at Duan Tianzhan calmly. As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned and started laughing as well. Wasn't this nonsense? If not for the fact that they had no enmity with Lin Ling, they would have shouted that they also thought Lin Ling couldn't reach the 9th level. Idiots! Duan Tianzhan couldn't be bothered to explain anything. He stretched out his finger and pointed at Lin Ling. In his opinion, only the word idiot could describe Lin Ling. Then how about we make a bet? If I can't reach the 9th level, I'll never step into this Sky Sword Tower again. If I can reach the 9th level, you can leave the Sky Sword Tower. How about that? Lin Ling said calmly. Hearing this, young Master Yao and the others' expressions changed. Lin Ling was going overboard. This was because this divine weapon contest was only held once every 100 years. It was better than any other auction. If Lin Ling lost and left the Sky Sword Tower, he would miss the opportunity to become stronger. Duan Tianzhan was taken aback. Before he could say anything, Duan Wuzhan, who was behind him, said, I agreed on his behalf. However, words have no proof. How do I know if you will fulfill your promise after you lose? Everyone here can testify that if I lose, you can attack me and beat me out of here. Lin Ling said word by word. These words were undoubtedly what Duan Wuzhan wanted to hear the most. Because this was Heaven Sword City, he didn't dare act recklessly against Lin Ling. However, since Lin Ling had personally agreed to it, it was a different matter altogether. Fine, since you insist on embarrassing yourself, I'll fulfill your wish. Duan Wuzhan nodded proudly, his heart wild with joy. Lin Ling also nodded. Without further ado, he led young Master Yao and the others to the platform in front of them. The platform in front of them was made of some unknown metal. An old man was standing on it. He was a peak martial progenitor. Around them, more and more people stepped onto the platform and announced the floor they wanted to go to. Senior, let's go to the 9th floor. Before arriving at the platform, Duan Wuzhan and the others took the initiative to speak, and as soon as they finished speaking, they quietly handed over some monarch crystals. The old man floated in midair, sitting cross-legged. At this moment, he opened his eyes and looked at Duan Wuzhan and the others indifferently. Then, he quietly took the imperial crystals. Seeing this, Duan Wuzhan and the others quickly took out their divine list jade tokens. When the old man saw the 2 words, Stairway to Heaven, on the jade token, he immediately nodded. This was the symbol of an expert on the divine list. As for Duan Tianzhan, he wasn't an expert on the divine list, but because an expert on the divine list could bring a follower, he followed Duan Wuzhan. Come on up, the old man said indifferently. Duan Wuzhan and the others were delighted. They waved the jade tokens in their hands at Lin Ling and stepped onto the platform. After stepping onto the platform, Duan Wuzhan spoke first. Senior, these people also want to go to the 9th floor. However, they have nothing, but they say they can go wherever they want. To them, Heaven Sword City is like their own backyard. They even said that the city lord of Heaven Sword City has to treat them as equals. They really have no respect for their elders. This was like adding insult to injury. Duan Wuzhan knew that Lin Ling would lose without a doubt, but he didn't want to let Lin Ling off so easily, so he sowed discord. It would be best if he could borrow this senior's hand to cripple Lin Ling. Senior, he is provoking the dignity of Heaven Sword City and looking down on Miao Shun's true inheritance. Duan Tianzhan followed suit and added insult to injury. Huh. The old man frowned slightly and looked at Lin Ling indifferently. Did you say that? Senior, I didn't say that. Lin Ling shook his head calmly, which made the old man nod. So it was something made up out of nothing. He felt that no one in Heaven Sword City would dare to be so arrogant. Then, just as he was about to speak, Lin Ling spoke again. He said indifferently, however, I do want to go to the 9th floor. Hearing this, the old man's brows that had just relaxed frowned again. Are you an expert on the divine list? No. Are you the city lord of the 36 main city, or the 72 vice city lords? None of them. Anger appeared on the old man's face. Was this guy playing with him? He shouted angrily, Scram. Where do you think our Heaven Sword City is? You're nothing. How can you behave so atrociously here? Scram? Lin Ling frowned. The old man's attitude really made him unhappy. Why should I scram? You're just a servant who watches over the platform. Do you have the right? Servant? When these words came out, the expressions of the surrounding people changed drastically. This old man was obviously a subordinate of the Heaven Sword City's city lord, but now he had become a servant. This Lin Ling was openly contradicting the old man. Wasn't this shooting himself in the foot? Many people could already foresee Lin Ling's tragic outcome. Even young Beast Lord and the others smiled bitterly, because even they didn't know what to do. Senior, look at this person's arrogant words and disrespectful words. You should cripple him. Duan Tianzhan roared and was overjoyed. Lin Ling was really too cooperative. As for the old man, his expression was incomparably cold. He stared at Lin Ling and said indifferently, "There are many people today, so I don't have time to deal with you. Consider yourself lucky. However, kowtow to me 20 times now, and then get out of Heaven Sword City. Otherwise, if you provoke me and I act according to the city rules, you only have 3 outcomes. First, be torn apart by 5 horses. Second, be executed by 1,000 cuts. Third, be lit by a sky lantern." When his last sentence fell, everyone's hearts turned cold. Yu and the others' expressions changed, and they immediately tugged at Lin Ling. Young Beast Lord and the others could only smile bitterly. Although their backgrounds were not small, this was under the eyes of a god. So if something happened to Lin Ling, it would be difficult for them to help. Lin Ling frowned. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. First, it was Duan Tianzhan sowing discord. Then, he encountered a domineering and indifferent old man. However, at this point, it was useless to think too much. Just when everyone thought that Lin Ling would kneel down and beg for mercy, Lin Ling also took a step forward and said fearlessly, "Today, not only will I not leave, but I will also bring all of them to the 9th level." When these words fell, the platform fell silent. No one expected that Lin Ling would still be so arrogant at this time. He didn't even have the chance to enter the 9th level, but he still wanted to bring everyone in. Haha, interesting. It's getting more and more interesting. Chapter 3581. If you have a mind to condemn someone, you can easily find a pretext. I'm not an expert on the divine list, nor am I the city lord, but I do have the supreme snowstorm token. Lin Ling also took out his trump card. Actually, he wanted to take it out from the very beginning, but he didn't expect that the old man would be so overbearing, causing him to not have the chance to take it out. After that, Lin Ling threw the token at the old man. The old man frowned and took the token to check, but he couldn't see anything. Supreme Snow Wind token? He had never even heard of it. However, he was still cautious. He asked, "Is this the jade plate of the god's list?" "No." Lin Ling shook his head. Bang! The old man threw the jade pendant to the ground and stomped on it. "Bastard, you don't have a jade pendant on the divine list. What are you doing? You're testing my patience. Fine, I'll give you 3 punishments. Which one do you want? Dismemberment by 5 horses, death by 1,000 cuts, or sky lanterns? Senior, this person is truly audacious. You magnanimously gave him a chance, but he didn't cherish it and even threatened to trample on you. Such a bandit should be punished according to the city's rules." Duan Wuzhan added insult to injury. The old man became more and more furious, as if he couldn't put down his face. He jumped up and grabbed towards Lin Ling. 3 punishments, have you made your choice?" Seeing this scene, everyone revealed looks of watching a good show. Now that the senior was enraged, how were Lin Ling and the others supposed to face him? "Old man, do you want to die?" However, before the old man could reach Lin Ling, the young demon lord, Majin Tianzi, and the others had already made their moves, unleashing their full strength to resist the old man. Rumble. The rumbling sounds continued, causing many people in the distance to be shocked. No one had expected that someone would actually dare to behave atrociously at a time like this. In fact, the old man did not think that Lin Ling would dare to resist. He was simply courting death. "You're all dead." The old man uttered a furious roar. However, even though he was a peak martial progenitor realm expert, young Master Beast, and the others were not weak either, it would be difficult for him to catch Lin Ling in a short period of time. "Brother Ling." Xian Yuan Guber bellowed and activated a page of scripture to suppress the old man. This caused the pressure on the old man to increase once again. "Brother Ling." Upon seeing this, Yu also drew her devouring sword of fortune. "Yu, I'll do it." However, Lin Ling stopped her. Once this sword was unleashed, how could that old man still be alive? Moreover, it was just an old man. Lin Ling would not use the heaven-devouring good fortune sword. Grand Brahma art of punishment. Lin Ling bellowed in his heart. He wanted to test the power of the divine steps. Suddenly, a strange power appeared, covering the surrounding 100 meters. All the martial artists within this range felt a sense of powerlessness rise up in their hearts. That feeling was as if he had met a god. When they looked at Lin Ling again, he was like a god at this moment. This strange feeling made many people's faces change greatly. However, Lin Ling sensed that his soul force was crazily burning and weakening. so he also used this power to attack the old man. Puff! The old man felt as if he was trapped in a cage, so his methods were sealed. World. That's right, it was as if he had entered another person's world. By the time he reacted, a blue-robed youth was already standing in front of him. The youth looked at him coldly and raised his right hand high. Pow! A slap landed on his face. If you don't understand, don't ask. Is this how your Heavenly Sword City's city lord taught you to do things? Pow! Another slap landed on his face. If you don't even know the Supreme Token, what qualifications do you have to guard the platform? Pow! The third slap arrived. You're already so old, yet you're being sowed discord. Such a mind is a disgrace to the reputation of the Heavenly Sword City. After the 3 slaps, the steps of wisdom disappeared at the same time. This made Lin Ling sigh. This power was strong, but the time it lasted was too short. Looking around, everyone gradually recovered, but their eyes were still confused. That power from before was so magical. However, this power came from Lin Ling? They obviously didn't believe it. On the contrary, they stared at the old man who had been slapped 3 times, and their expressions changed drastically. Lin Ling hit that senior? It's over, it's really over this time. Originally, they all thought that Lin Ling was finished when he talked back to that senior, but who knew that Lin Ling still dared to hit him, and hit his face? This guy! Even young Demon Lord and the others were shocked. Then they laughed bitterly, knowing that it would be difficult to leave the city later. Lin Ling's steps of wisdom disappeared, and the old man broke free from the power of young Demon Lord and the others. At this moment, he stood up, his long hair fluttering wildly as he stared at Lin Ling like a madman. This kid hit his face? Moreover, in front of so many people? He laughed, and he laughed out of anger. 3 ways to die, 5 horses to tear you apart, death by 1,000 cuts, and a sky lantern. Which one do you choose? This time, the fury on the old man's body was about to materialize. He took a step forward, causing the earth to tremble. The supreme snow wind token beneath his feet emitted cracking sounds as he stepped on it. This was his territory, the Heaven Sword City. He didn't believe that Lin Ling and the others could stir up any waves. Seeing the old man's rage, Lin Ling frowned, but he looked more at the token under the old man's feet. Then he was stunned. The token was given to him by the Dean of the Snow Wind Academy. He had once said that seeing the token was like seeing the Dean, but now the token was stepped on by someone, and no one recognized it. Could it be that the Dean was lying? 3 ways to die, have you chosen? Seeing Lin Ling's silence, the old man thought that Lin Ling was completely afraid and regretted it. However, regret and fear were useless. They couldn't extinguish his anger. Therefore, he attacked again. Rolling up his realm essence, he grabbed at Lin Ling. Bastard! But at this moment, a fierce shout suddenly sounded. A sword came from the horizon and slashed in front of the old man, causing the earth to shake. Everyone focused their eyes and realized that an ancient sword had been stabbed into the ground. On the hilt of the sword, a slender figure stood there indifferently with his hands behind his back. City Lord. Seeing that person, the old man's expression changed greatly, and he immediately knelt down. It is our Heaven Sword City's honor that Miao Shen's true disciple chose our Heaven Sword City to hold a conference. But look at you, at such a critical moment, you actually caused a battle in Heaven Sword City, causing the entire city to be in turmoil. How should you be punished? The figure standing there was a refined middle-aged man, but his voice was not refined at all. It was filled with monstrous anger. This anger made everyone tremble in fear, but Duan Tianzhan and the others were even more excited. Even the city lord had taken action. Ha ha ha, unless Lin Ling was the dean of the academy, there was no reason for him to not die. City lord, it's not my fault. That kid is too arrogant, lawless, and disrespectful. He even threatened to destroy the city. The old man knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. That's right, city lord, we can all testify. Duan Tianzhan and the others immediately echoed. The scholarly middle-aged man frowned because he actually sensed a familiar aura here. It was the power of divinity. However, he also looked at Lin Ling, and at the same time, he searched for treasures with the characteristics of divinity. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Chapter 3582. A Supreme Snow Wind Token of Poor Quality. How dare you be so arrogant in front of the city lord? The old man roared. We can all testify to this. They were aggressive, so Lin Ling resisted. Young Master Yao and the others stepped forward and said angrily, "Ha ha, you seem to be on the same side as him. Do you think it's convincing if you testify?" However, just as young Master Yao and the others finished speaking, Duan Tianzhan also said sarcastically, no matter what, they would not let Lin Ling off the hook. And from the looks of it, Lin Ling did not have any hope of getting off the hook. Haha. At this thought, Duan Tianzhan, Duan Wuzhan, and the others could not help but laugh. However, no matter how much they said, the scholarly middle-aged man was not moved at all. His brows were tightly knitted, and he was still searching for something. God's power. He sensed that there was a God's power here, and this power was hidden in some kind of treasure. And God's power was not to be underestimated. Every person who had this kind of power was like a titan in the final world. Wait, this token is? Suddenly, the scholarly middle-aged man pointed at the old man's feet, and his eyes narrowed in disbelief. The old man was stunned. He looked at his feet and immediately smiled. City Lord, this token is what that kid relied on. At first, I thought it was a divine list jade token, but when I took a look, it was not gold but white. The quality is not good, and I can tell it's a fake. He said it very firmly, because with his eyesight, he had indeed never seen such a token before. With that, Duan Tianzhan also stared at the jade token and chuckled. Now that you mention it, I really do notice it. This white token looks quite big, even bigger than the divine list jade token. However, its surface is dull. Indeed, the workmanship is not good. Haha, can a big piece mean anything? If that's the case, wouldn't it be even more intimidating if our divine list jade token was made into a shield the size of a shield? Haha. Duan Wuzhan and the others took out their own jade tokens and compared them, and then they laughed contemptuously. However, compared to their laughter, the scholarly middle-aged man was shocked. This token is that kid's? Unfortunately, this shock was not noticed by the old man. He stood up and said righteously, City Lord, this token is obviously that brat's. He wanted to deceive me into entering the 9th level, but my fiery eyes of truth saw through it. Speaking of which, this brat is not even willing to put in the effort to deceive others. He wants to enter the 9th level with such a poor quality token? Does he think I don't exist? However, just as he finished speaking, a wave of sword energy surged toward him and blew him away. He crashed into the wall of the heavenly sword tower. Puff! He even spat out a mouthful of blood. The old man was completely dumbfounded. He did not know what had just happened. However, the scholarly middle-aged man didn't pay any attention to him. He strode forward, picked up the token, and personally wiped off the dust on it. He even wiped it several times. In the end, when he saw the word Supreme on the token, his expression finally changed dramatically. The old man didn't bother to wipe the blood from his mouth. His face was full of suspicion, especially when he saw the city lord carefully wipe away the dust from the token. His eyes narrowed. What happened to the city lord? Wiping the token was actually more careful than wiping his own sword? Even Duan Tianzhan and the others had their mouths agape. Those who didn't know would think that the token belonged to the city lord. However, after the scholarly middle-aged man wiped the token clean, he immediately walked toward Lin Ling. Then he said solemnly, Sir, how should I address you? Sir. Hearing that, the old man, Duan Tianzhan, and the others' eyes trembled. That was a form of address only for peers. Lin Ling was just a kid, and the city lord was the city lord of a main city. What right did Lin Ling have to be a peer? I am Lin Ling's. Lin Ling frowned. He was still upset that the Supreme Snow Wind token was useless. So it's Brother Lin. Haha, I feel like old friends at first sight. How about we call each other brothers from now on? You can call me Brother Tian. The scholarly middle-aged man suddenly laughed and said casually, Brother? This time, the old man and the others' hearts exploded. Their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Sir, that was a form of address for peers. Brother, that was even more exaggerated. It was practically half a life-and-death friend. Speaking of which, the city lord was so powerful, yet he treated Lin Ling as a life-and-death friend? Brother, give me a slap. I feel like I'm dreaming. Duan Tianzhan muttered. Slap. Duan Wuzhan really gave him a slap, breaking a few of Duan Tianzhan's teeth. Then, Duan Wuzhan also slapped himself, because he also felt like he was dreaming. City Lord, did you get the wrong person? This kid is still wet behind the ears. He's your brother? The old man also felt like he was dreaming. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the sword wave came again. The impact caused the old man to spit out blood and fly back more than 10 meters. At this moment, the scholarly middle-aged man was furious. Of course, he recognized it. This was the Supreme Snow Wind token, which represented supreme status. Seeing the token was like seeing the dean. In the 36 academies, there were very, very few such tokens. Every one of the holders was a person of great status. From another perspective, Lin Ling was a dean, a person of virtue and prestige. However, such a dean was humiliated in the main city of the scholarly middle-aged man. Even if he really had no friendship with Lin Ling, if Lin Ling went back and told the Snow Wind Academy, the Snow Wind Academy would definitely settle the score with him. Although he was not afraid, but he was in the wrong. Moreover, to dare humiliate a dean, the powerhouses of the other 36 academies would probably not agree. This was also the reason why the scholarly middle-aged man lost his composure. Most importantly, that old man actually stepped on the Supreme Snow Wind token under his feet, and stepped on it until it was covered in dust. Did this mean that he wanted to trample the Snow Wind Academy under his feet? Thinking of this, the scholarly middle-aged man's forehead broke out in cold sweat. You said before that Brother Lin could go to the 9th floor if he wanted to, and he could bring whoever he wanted, and he would dare to destroy the city, right? The scholarly middle-aged man looked at the old man and said. But at this moment he was no longer scholarly and was full of majesty. Yes. The old man was not a fool. He had already sensed that something was wrong. Because it had been a long time since he had seen the city lord lose his composure. Let me tell you, Brother Lin can go wherever he wants. Not to mention who he brings. Even if he brings tens of thousands of people, my Heaven Sword City will welcome him. As for destroying the city, let him destroy it. The scholarly middle-aged man roared. Plop! The old man was so frightened that he fell to the ground, his gaze also looking at Lin Ling. The city lord had personally agreed, and that brat could destroy the city at will? This was too crazy. What was the background of this kid? What was the origin of that token? He thought of how he had solemnly said that the token was a fake, and that the quality was very poor. Now he was so embarrassed that he wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. As for the arrogance and tyranny on his body, it had all disappeared at this moment. Instead, it was a bitter smile, regret, and fear. Such an expression undoubtedly shocked the surrounding people. You've already made a big mistake. I can't help you. Chapter 3583. Face slapping. Towards Lin Ling, he had given him enough face. After all, he was the one in the wrong. And Lin Ling was not an aggressive person. The city lord of Sky Sword City had given him enough face. If he killed the old man, it would also affect his relationship with the city lord. Immediately, he took the token from the refined middle-aged man and walked towards the old man step by step. When the old man saw Lin Ling walking over, his face turned pale with fright. He knew that if Lin Ling wanted to kill him, he could only stand there and be killed. Not to mention resisting, he wouldn't even dare to move a finger. You said before that I have 3 ways to die, right? Lin Ling stood in front of the old man and said indifferently. The old man didn't dare to look directly at Lin Ling, so he could only lower his head and say, Raise your head. Lin Ling shouted coldly. The old man didn't dare to refuse and quickly raised his head. However, just as he raised his head, a slap landed on his face. Slap! It was very crisp. The sound shocked everyone's hearts. What a thick-skinned person. He actually hit me until my hand hurts. However, Lin Ling's voice also floated out, causing everyone to be speechless. Speaking of which, the old man's face hasn't even cried out in pain, but your hand is already crying out in pain. You said before that I have 3 ways to die. The supreme token appeared in Lin Ling's hand. Then he grabbed the supreme token and slapped the old man's face. Dismemberment by 5 horses? Slap! His voice was clearly more straightforward than using his palm. The old man spat out blood from the slap. Death by 1,000 cuts? Slap! The second slap messed up the old man's hair. Sky lantern. Slap! The third slap made the old man spit out a mouthful of teeth. Most importantly, he still had to smile in front of Lin Ling. As expected, it's better to use other things to slap the face. After the 3 slaps, Lin Ling waved the token in his hand, causing the surrounding people to be even more speechless. That guy's counterattack was fierce enough. You said before that the quality of this token is not good? Lin Ling asked the old man after he was done. The old man stared at the token and felt a sweet taste in his throat. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The originally dirty jade tablet became brighter and brighter after being wiped clean by the city lord. Now, after slapping his face, it was actually as dazzling as the blazing sun. It could be said that it had blinded his eyes. Is this because the quality is not good enough? Puff! A mouthful of blood finally spurted out from his mouth, reaching as far as 5 meters away. The previously insufferably arrogant old man fell on his back and fainted from anger. Awesome! Young Demon Master and the others laughed excitedly when they saw this. Although killing the old man didn't seem to be a big problem, killing the old man was obviously not as satisfying as slapping him unconscious. Duan Tianzhan, where are you going? At this moment, Lin Ling suddenly shouted. In the crowd, Duan Tianzhan actually wanted to escape. After being yelled at by Lin Ling, he could only return with his tail between his legs. Get over here, Lin Ling shouted in a low voice. Duan Tianzhan immediately looked at his brother. Unfortunately, Duan Wuzhan didn't dare to provoke Lin Ling at this moment. He could only grit his teeth and say, Go over. Brother. Duan Tianzhan immediately felt that the end was near. He could only lower his head and walk towards Lin Ling. Didn't you shout very loudly just now? Now, shout again for me to see. Duan Tianzhan had just walked over when Lin Ling held the token and slapped it horizontally across. This slap instantly knocked out a mouthful of Duan Tianzhan's teeth. However, even the old man didn't dare to resist, let alone Duan Tianzhan. Weren't you very talkative just now? Say it again for me to see. Lin Ling slapped him again. In the distance, Duan Wuzhan was so angry that his body trembled. Lin Ling was doing this on purpose. In front of everyone, no, most importantly, in front of him, he was slapping his brother's face. However, he could only watch and couldn't move. Such humiliation was comparable to killing one's father. Weren't you very good at farting just now? Now, fart again for me to see. Smack! The third slap sent Duan Tianzhan flying more than 10 meters away. At this moment, Duan Tianzhan was in a sorry state. He didn't have a single tooth, his long hair was messy, his nose was broken, and his face was covered in blood. However, his eyes were filled with resentment. Originally, he had come to watch Lin Ling make a fool of himself. However, in the end, he didn't know where Lin Ling got such a token from, but it actually turned the tables and slapped him in the face. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept it at all. Lin Ling was just a piece of trash from the Godslayer Alliance, and he was of the Duan family bloodline. Why was it that in the final world, this piece of trash was doing better than him, a member of the Duan family bloodline? You lost the bet just now. Now, get out of Sky Sword City. Lin Ling put away the Supreme Snow Wind token and said to Duan Tianzhan calmly. Duan Tianzhan really didn't want to leave. He had heard that a treasure would be auctioned in this divine weapon contest, and that treasure was very suitable for him. It was the greatest possibility for him to become stronger. He had originally wanted to use that treasure to increase his strength and suppress Lin Ling. But now he was going to be chased away. Not only did he lose the opportunity to enter the 9th level, but he also lost the right to participate in the auction. One had to know that such an auction was only held once every 100 years. 1. Lin Ling didn't waste any time and calmly counted off. In his heart, Duan Tianzhan was just an ant that couldn't even enter Lin Ling's eyes. However, if Duan Tianzhan didn't leave, Lin Ling didn't mind killing him in this city. With the Supreme Snow Wind token, what did he have to fear? Lin Ling, you've got guts. Duan Tianzhan cursed under his breath. Finally, with bloodshot eyes, he dragged his pathetic body and fled. I'm so angry. Seeing his younger brother being bullied like this, Duan Tianzhan's body trembled. Even his friends behind him felt it was unfair for him, but what could they do? Although Lin Ling wasn't an expert on the divine role, at least in Heaven Sword City, it wasn't difficult for him to play them to death. Let's go. Without stopping, Duan Tianzhan left with resentment in his heart. Come, Brother Lin. You're going to the 9th level, right? I'll personally send you up. The scholarly middle-aged man also walked toward Lin Ling with a smile. Thank you, Brother Heaven. Lin Ling immediately bowed. The scholarly middle-aged man waved his hand and personally summoned a platform to bring Lin Ling and the others to the 9th level. Wow, the city lord personally came to welcome him. A big shot, this is a big shot. Wow, that treatment seems to be the treatment of a dean. But that kid is so young, how can he be a dean? Wow. As expected of the number 1 record holder of the Divine Tower, Lin Ling. Wow. Everyone looked admiringly at the floating platform and secretly clenched their fists. When would they be able to enjoy such glory? The platform slowly rose into the air. On the platform, the scholarly middle-aged man looked at Lin Ling as if they were old friends, smiling as he spoke. Young Beast Lord and the others were secretly shocked. The token in Lin Ling's hand was too big of a deal. Brother Lin is from Snow Wind Academy. Haha, Snow Wind City's City Lord Songchiri and I are old friends. If Brother Lin encounters any trouble in Snow Wind City, you can go find Songchiri. The scholarly middle-aged man laughed. Thank you, Brother Heaven. Chapter 3584. Reaching the 9th floor. Oh! The scholarly middle-aged man was surprised. Not only does this Lin Ling have the supreme token, but he also knows Mayor Tsong? Looks like I was too rash. Mayor Tsong has a good relationship with you, so he should be your guide. The scholarly middle-aged man asked curiously. Guide? You can say that, but he usually calls me young lord. Lin Ling remembered that the scholarly middle-aged man had a good relationship with Mayor Tsong, so he did not hide too much. Chi. However, the moment his words fell, the scholarly middle-aged man couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. Young lord. Snow Wind City's mayor called this young man young lord? What is this young man's background? He looked deeply at Lin Ling and realized that Lin Ling was more complicated than he had imagined. At that moment, he once again bowed to Lin Ling, its elder brother who has been reckless again. To tell you the truth, elder brother Tian, my name is Tian Baohe, a former student of the Snow Wind Academy. The vice principal has shown me great kindness. So that's how it is. Lin Ling suddenly understood. No wonder old brother Tian was so polite to him. After all, although he had the supreme token, it was only enough to make old brother Tian treat him as a peer. It was not enough for old brother Tian to kill his own people for him. But now everything was clear. Because of Snow Wind Academy, it could be said that if Lin Ling had the E-Garden's supreme token, the treatment he received would not be so good. How about this? In the Divine Artifact competition later, Brother Lin can use my name to buy 3 treasures at any price. Just treat it as my contribution to Snow Wind Academy. How about it? The scholarly middle-aged man said. Hearing this, young Beast Lord and the rest's faces changed. 3 treasures. The value of these treasures was definitely not cheap. However, they also understood after thinking about it. Not only was Mayor Tian repaying Snow Wind Academy's kindness, he was also trying to establish a good relationship. This also meant that if Lin Ling fancied a treasure, even if it was just a piece of Emperor crystal, he could easily buy it, and the difference in price would be covered by Mayor Tian. As for the preemptive rights, Brother Lin has the supreme Snow Wind token, so you don't need my help. With this token, you have the qualifications to seize the treasure first. The scholarly middle-aged man laughed. Thank you, Brother Heaven. Lin Ling did not argue. After all, he was indeed in need of royal crystals. Haha. Seeing Lin Ling nod, the scholarly middle-aged man was even happier. He was afraid that Lin Ling would refuse. When I return to the Wind Snow Academy, if you see the vice headmaster, please remember to put in a few good words for me. Also, please mention me to Mayor Tsong as much as you can. Brother Tian, I'll be counting on you. The scholarly middle-aged man smiled and said carefully. No problem. However, since Lin Ling had agreed, the middle-aged man's happiness gradually turned into excitement. The platform slowly moved towards the 9th level. Not long after, Mayor Tian bid farewell and left. Lin Ling led young Beast Lord and the rest to the 9th level. Young Beast Lord and the rest sighed in their hearts. In the past, when they were in the 9 states, it was mostly them who helped Lin Ling. However, in the final world, Lin Ling continued to grow. His speed was a few hundred times faster than theirs. Now, they had to rely on Lin Ling's blessings. But soon after, they were incomparably happy and proud. This was because Lin Ling was also one of the 4 leaders of the God-Slayer Alliance. The stronger Lin Ling was, the stronger the God-Slayer Alliance would be. Young Beast Lord, I think you'll have to give your first leader position to Lin Ling. On the way, Majin Tianzi secretly mocked him. Hee, as long as the God-Slayer Alliance can be stronger, I'm willing to be a small fry, let alone the first leader. Young Beast Lord didn't care at all, nor was he jealous. To him, he had always been proud and arrogant. There weren't many people who could earn his respect, and Lin Ling was one of them. As they walked along the corridor, a huge ring-shaped plaza appeared in front of them. The ring-shaped plaza had a total of 9 levels. Lin Ling and the rest were on the 9th level. Moreover, there were many private rooms on the 9th level. Those who could enter the private rooms were all super big shots in the final world. When Lin Ling and the rest appeared on the 9th level, they immediately attracted the attention of many people. Wow, they brought so many people up at once. Those people must be big shots. Hee, they're not just big shots. They're practically big shots. Do you see that young man in the lead? His name is Lin Ling. Lin Ling? He's Lin Ling? The first record holder of the Ethereal Tower? Speaking of which, our president just asked yesterday what's on the 9th level. A large number of voices could be heard on the 9th level. Most of the people who had appeared were experts from the 36 academies. Of course, there were also the Duke's residents and the various major powers in the final world. However, even the Duke's residents and the other major powers had heard of Lin Ling's name. This is strange. Although Lin Ling passed the 3 tests, he just became an expert of the God's Hall. He hasn't even entered the God ranking yet. Why is he on the 9th level? What's strange about that? He must have gotten in through the back door. However, even though the Ethereal Tower's record is amazing, the final world is all about strength. Compared to the experts on the God ranking, Lin Ling is still much weaker. Indeed. Perhaps he's just here to watch the show. All sorts of voices could be heard. Unfortunately, Lin Ling ignored them and continued walking forward with Yu and the rest. Lin Ling, Ducho Wuzun. Young Beast Lord said in a low voice. On the 9th level, 2 bone-chilling gazes were directed at them. It was Ducho and the rest. Like us, they have just entered the God ranking. They shouldn't be qualified to come to the 9th level. Prince Emojin said to Ducho and Wuzun. Like us, they must have relied on others to bring them in. Young Beast Lord said with a faint smile. It wasn't difficult for him to guess. At this moment, Ducho and Wuzun were glaring at Lin Ling and the other 2. The anger in their eyes couldn't be concealed at all. This was because they had always been above Young Beast Lord and Wuzun. Even Ducho and Prince Emojin had almost been crippled by them. However, in the Ethereal Tower, Prince Emojin had surpassed Wuzun and defeated Ducho. He had left them with a huge humiliation. They couldn't tolerate this humiliation. They couldn't tolerate it at all. Not only that, but Lin Ling, who was with Young Beast Lord and the rest, had even defeated Duan Wuhan and Lord Long, breaking the first record of the Ethereal Tower. Therefore, the more they saw the God Slayer Alliance's trio doing well, the more uncomfortable they felt. I didn't expect these 3 country bumpkins to be qualified to come here. Ducho muttered to himself. Didn't you hear what they said? The 3 of them are just here to watch the show. They can't afford to buy anything. Wuzun said arrogantly, adding insult to injury. That's true. With their background, they can't afford to buy anything. Nor are they qualified to snatch anything. They can only watch the show and look up to others. Ducho laughed. Losers, what nonsense are you talking about? Chapter 3585. Translator. Nioibo Studio Editor. Nioibo Studio 8 Divine Spears. Ducho and his companion were fuming with anger. No matter how arrogant they pretended to be, no matter how much they looked down on Lin Ling's group, they had lost to Lin Ling's group. That was an unchangeable fact. Don't waste your breath on these clowns. Let's go. There are empty seats over there. Let's go sit there. Lin Ling said as he led the group forward. Originally, Lin Ling could have entered the private room, but the atmosphere outside was obviously better, so Lin Ling didn't plan to enter any private room. Looks like it's not just Ducho. Duan Wujan is also here and is staring at us with ill intentions. Moreover, there are many people from the Duan family and the new heavenly court here. They should also want to watch us make a fool of ourselves. Lin Ling said as he walked. Young Yao and the others nodded. These were all old rivals of the Godslayer Alliance. It wasn't strange for them to target them. At that moment, Lin Ling sensed an angry gaze. He quietly looked over and saw a handsome, fair-skinned man. Lin Ling didn't know this man. However, Lin Ling could sense that the man was looking at him with hostility. Most importantly, Lin Ling saw that the man seemed to be from the Snow Wind Academy. However, Lin Ling quickly shook his head. There were too many people who were hostile to him. It didn't make a difference if there was one more or one less. It's Lin Ling. The fair-skinned man was Kagura. When he saw Lin Ling, he was so angry that his nose trembled. This was because he was the top assassin of the Flying Dragon organization. He was known as the King of Assassins, the 19 kills expert. Therefore, when he found out that Lin Ling was in the Snow Wind Academy, he had been thinking of ways to assassinate Lin Ling and ruin Lin Ling's plans. However, in the end, not only did he not see Lin Ling fall, but he saw Lin Ling rise step by step. This was especially true when Lin Ling came back from the Holy Temple with a dazzling radiance that lasted for millions of years. At that time, he felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. As for Lin Ling, he, Kagura, would definitely find an opportunity to step on him and kill him. Not long after, the lively auction gradually quieted down, because the auction had officially begun. The first to come out was an old man who was a true disciple of Miao Shen. This person was highly respected and his soul force was extremely powerful. He was the host of this event. It was the true inheritance of Miao Shen, the gathering place of boundary masters. It was said that even the Duan family, the number one family in the world, did not dare to provoke them. Miaodi gave them a lot of face. In the end, it was because Miao Shen's true legacy included 90% of the medicinal pills, 90% of the weapons, and 90% of the grand formations. On the other hand, Miao Shen's boundary masters spent their entire lives studying weapons and rarely went out. The treasures they forged would be auctioned once every 100 years. Every time they appeared, it would cause a huge sensation in the final world. This was because if one could obtain Miao Shen's divine weapon, it would also mean that one would obtain the key to becoming an expert. In this auction, it was said that 10 divine weapons would be auctioned. Thank you for giving me face. I, Old He, will not waste any more words. Let the auction begin. The first item to be auctioned is one of the 18 Tuoshan bloodlines. This treasure has been in Miao Shen's warehouse for 100,000 years. 10 years ago, it was cleaned up, so it was decided to be auctioned. The old man said with a smile. Miao Shen's true legacy was not only a place of producing divine weapons, but also a place of producing treasures due to the accumulation of countless treasures. One of the 18 Tuoshan bloodlines? Some people were puzzled. Tuo means heaviness, solidity, and perfection of virtue. The same goes for Buddha. Vast wisdom is immeasurable, achieving the great Tao of the void. These 18 Tuoshan bloodlines are one of the bloodlines of deities. It is also the seed of an ultimate desolate body. The possessor has a 60% chance of obtaining an ultimate desolate body, one of the 18 Tuoshan bloodlines. The old man raised his hand, and a golden relic floated up. Its light illuminated the entire 9th floor. Many people were in an uproar. This was the seed of an ultimate desolate body. Brother Ling, do you want this ultimate desolate body? If you give it to Yi Der. On the 9th floor, Yu immediately asked in anticipation. Lin Ling was also astonished at the power of the seed. However, after sensing it, he shook his head. This seed is useful for ordinary people, but I have checked it. Its limit is only at the 4th grade. As for the talent we want to give to Yi Er, how can it be a mere 4th grade? Furthermore, Yi Er is out training. Perhaps he will have a better harvest due to his opportunities. Upon hearing this, Yu and the rest immediately nodded. They also felt that a 4th grade was too low. However, to many warriors on the 9th floor and below, this was a pretty good treasure. In the 9 prefectures, there were very few people who had an ultimate desolate body. If they obtained a seed, they would have a 60% chance of becoming an expert. And many of them had been entrusted with the task of purchasing supreme-grade treasures. Naturally, they would not miss out on this opportunity. All right, this seed's starting price is 5 million royal crystals. The old man's voice floated out. 8 million royal crystals. 10 million. 15 million. 23 million. Finally, it was bought by an expert with 23 million royal crystals. This expert might have left it for his family or auctioned it off in the 9 prefectures. However, the price would definitely be higher than 23 million. After the first treasure was sold, the second treasure followed. Furthermore, this was the highlight of the show. One of the top 10 divine weapons. 8 Division Divine Spear, a divine weapon forged by Master Alagaya. Its power is limitless. Ghost Chi, demonic Chi, fiendish Chi, and murderous Chi are all gathered into one. It greatly increases the user's defense and ancestral power. It also has a 1% chance of activating 10% of divine power. A 4-colored spear floated out, causing the Sky Sword Pagoda to sway a little. Everyone could sense the terrifying power of the divine spear. Their eyes instantly burned with desire. It could be said that the divine spear could instantly double the strength of an ordinary expert. It was 10 times stronger. 8-division divine spear. Duan Wuzhan's eyes burned with desire. He was here for this. If he could get his hands on this spear, he would be able to go further on the stairway to heaven. For the upcoming stairway to heaven battle, he was determined to get this divine spear. Moreover, Duan Wuhan had become stronger. As one of the twin prides, if he did not become stronger, the Duan clan would laugh at him. "It's mine!" Duan Wuzhan shouted in a low voice. At this moment, Lin Ling was also staring at the long spear. He nodded slightly and said, "Not bad." He felt that the long spear was only slightly weaker than his true inheritance, the dark sword. However, Lin Ling already had 2 divine weapons, so he did not intend to fight for it. 8-division divine spear. However, Prince Majin gasped. This made Lin Ling's eyes light up. Prince Majin seemed to want the divine spear very much. And that was indeed the case. Emperor Grojin looked at Lin Ling with a burning gaze. "Lin Ling, I'll pay for this long spear. Can you help me get it?" "No problem. I'll definitely help you." Lin Ling had the supreme snow wind token, so he had the priority to fight for the treasures. Chapter 3586. A miracle had really happened. Hearing this, Prince of Gold couldn't help but become excited. However, he wasn't good with words, so he would remember this favor in his heart. As soon as the divine spear appeared, the auction also became lively and noisy. The starting price of the divine spear had reached 1 billion in a short period of time, and it was still rising. Everyone felt that 1 billion for a divine spear was not a loss. It was even worth 10 billion. 2 billion royal crystals. I'm from the Duan family, and I used to be one of the 2 prides of the Duan family. I hope everyone will give me some face. If you fight with me, I can play with you even if it's 30 billion. Brother. At this moment, Duan Wuzhan stood up and shouted in a low voice. The 9th-level Heavenly Sword Pagoda instantly fell silent. They had no choice but to give the Duan family face. It was obviously not a good choice to rashly offend the ultimate world's #1 family. Moreover, there were still 9 divine weapons. The 8 divine spear would be given to the Duan family. As for the old man, he narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't know Duan Wuzhan, but he had heard of the ultimate world's #1 family, so he nodded and smiled. It seems that no one is bidding. Then the 8 divine spear will belong to the Duan family. However, before he finished speaking, a faint voice floated out. "Wait, I want this 8 divine spear." "You want it?" The 9th-level Heavenly Sword Pagoda seemed to be earth-shattering. Following that, waves of laughter resounded like the waves of the sea. This Lin Ling was from the countryside, right? He didn't even bid, and didn't care about who came first. Did he think that the true inheritance of Miao Shun was owned by his family? Haha. Duan Wuzhan stared at Lin Ling as if he was an idiot. "Lin Ling, let me tell you, I've had my eyes on this 8 divine spear since a year ago. You want it just because you say you want it? Dream on." He almost roared out the last 3 words. Perhaps he was venting his anger because his brother had been driven away. In my opinion, people like him who don't follow the rules should be driven out of here. That's right, he won't pay, but he wants it just because he wants it. That's too overbearing. Du Chou and Wu Zun also spoke up. The 2 of them knew that Lin Ling seemed to use a sword, so that divine spear was definitely not bought for them. And among the few of them, the one who was most likely to obtain the divine spear was none other than the Golden Son of Heaven. Therefore, they did not want the Golden Son of Heaven to obtain the 8 divine spear and become stronger. This was because they all wanted to surpass Prince Mo-jin. My friend, the godly spear has already been bought. You are still 1 step too late. At this moment, the old man looked indifferently at Lin Ling. He didn't know Lin Ling, but Duan Wuzhan was of the Duan clan's bloodline, so he would definitely side with the latter. What do you mean by a step late? I've already bid before Senior made his decision, so the godly spear hasn't been won yet. However, Lin Ling was expressionless and fearless as he spoke. At this moment, the old man's expression turned ugly. In any case, he was still a true disciple of Miao Shun. This mere brat actually dared to not give him face. You bid? What a joke. I've never heard you bid. Moreover, you really want the godly spear. First, you bid higher than me. 100 million each time. Do you hear me clearly? 100 million. Duan Wuzhan sneered and mocked Lin Ling for being poor. Lin Ling glanced at him indifferently and finally shouted, 2,000,000,001 imperial crystal. Everyone was shocked again. One more imperial crystal? Was this Lin Ling deliberately causing trouble? Sir, the starting price is 100 million each time. The old man was also furious. Was he playing with him? He looked coldly at Lin Ling. If you continue to cause trouble, I have the right to kick you out. Moreover, you will never be able to participate in the convention again. Everyone in the auction house couldn't help but laugh. In their opinion, Lin Ling was just playing to the gallery. However, now that he had kicked an iron plate, it was time for him to obediently bow his head and admit his mistake. What a pitiful person. Everything was fine, but he just had to embarrass himself. Perhaps he wouldn't die if he didn't ask for it. Just when everyone thought that Lin Ling didn't dare to bid, Lin Ling said again, I've already bid. I want this godly spear. Nobody can stop me. He was still persisting? He hadn't backed down. Wasn't Lin Ling afraid of being kicked out of the convention forever? There was no doubt that Lin Ling's stubbornness had shocked everyone. Even Duan Wuzhan couldn't help but admire Lin Ling's boldness. However, he also stood up and said in an extremely domineering manner, Men, kick this person out. He will never be able to participate in the convention again. He thought of himself as the host of the convention. However, he believed that even if he didn't speak, the elder would speak. That was indeed the case. The old man's face had already darkened. He hadn't seen such an arrogant person in a long time. Men, come! He shouted angrily. However, at that moment, a good-looking woman walked over quickly and whispered something into the old man's ear. The old man's initial anger gradually turned into shock, and finally, reverence. His gaze was fixed on Lin Ling. This undoubtedly puzzled everyone, especially Duan Wuzhan. However, he didn't care. In his opinion, unless a miracle happened, how could Lin Ling be safe and sound? The convention had been held for so many years. Rules were always the most important. Without rules, nothing could be accomplished. This 8-part godly weapon belongs to this young friend. Finally, the old man's voice sounded. Haha. Thank you, elder. Duan Wuzhan couldn't help but stand up. He was extremely excited. He was even prepared to hear the cheers of his friends behind him. However, his friends beside him didn't speak. Their expressions even changed greatly. This made Duan Wuzhan frown. Only then did he look at the old man. He was shocked to find that the old man wasn't pointing at him, but at Lin Ling. Not him. What the fuck? What was going on? Young friend, I was neglectful before. I hope you don't take it to heart. Now, you've won the 8-part godly spear with 2,000,000,001 imperial crystals. Congratulations. When the old man looked at Lin Ling, a kind smile appeared on his face. Earlier, he had been informed that Lin Ling had a Paragon's medallion, and as the dean, he had the right to seize treasures first. According to the rules, the treasure naturally belonged to Lin Ling. Moreover, those who had the supreme token were all important figures. Although the Duan family couldn't be underestimated, Duan Wuzhan couldn't compare to Lin Ling. Moreover, Duan Wuzhan couldn't represent the entire Duan family. Therefore, the old man was naturally on Lin Ling's side. Lin Ling immediately nodded. He wasn't surprised by this result. However, everyone was surprised. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even Duan Wuzhan was dumbfounded. Previously, he had thought that unless a miracle happened, a miracle had indeed happened. Chapter 3587. I've taken a liking to it. He had relied on the 8 divine spear. But now, all his dreams had gone down the drain. How could he accept it? Senior, I clearly bid for this divine spear first, and he only added an emperor crystal. Why does the divine spear belong to him? Roar! Duan Wuzhan roared at the old man. All right, I've decided. So, let's prepare the next treasure. Roar! However, the old man said expressionlessly. A simple sentence had directly killed Duan Wuzhan's many years of hard work, causing him to almost go crazy. Damn old man, give me an explanation. I'm the Saint Rider of the 3 Talismans God. Did you hear me? 3 talismans. I'm one of the 2 prides of the Duan clan. Are you afraid? Sell the divine spear to me immediately, or I'll make sure you can't leave Heaven's Sword City. Roar! Duan Wuzhan roared. This time, everyone was shocked. Duan Wuzhan actually dared to threaten the old man. He really had guts. The old man's pupils constricted, and he was so angry that he couldn't speak. Haha, fear? Now, sell the divine spear to me. Duan Wuzhan laughed even louder when he saw the old man fall silent. However, someone beside him immediately reminded him, "Brother Duan, this is the divine weapon contest." The voice was like a bolt from the blue, causing Duan Wuzhan to react. Previously, he had been so angry that his eyes had turned red and he'd lost his mind. However, he was a martial ancestor after all, so he was able to calm down very quickly. However, after calming down, he knew that things were troublesome. Damn old man. Can't leave Heaven's Sword City. Heavens, how could I say such a thing? Duan Wuzhan wished he could slap himself a few times. Very good, you can get lost. You'll never be able to step into the divine weapon contest. At this time, the old man finally spoke, his tone cold and emotionless. Never being able to step into the divine weapon contest was an extremely heavy punishment. No, senior, give me a chance. I was anxious before, so I spoke carelessly. Duan Wuzhan immediately shouted anxiously, and even knelt down and kowtowed. However, there was an expert who took him away forcefully. Lin Ling, you've done this to me. Before Duan Wuzhan was driven away, he glared at Lin Ling with resentment. His younger brother had been forced out of the Heaven Sword City by Lin Ling, and he was the same. How could he swallow this anger? Moreover, the Duan clan was currently waiting for his good news. In the end, he returned empty-handed and would never be able to enter the divine artifact competition. How would he be able to face others when he returned? A pitiful person must have a pitiful side. Lin Ling just shrugged his shoulders, looking as if it had nothing to do with him. The people in the auction hall suddenly started whispering. They didn't understand why Lin Ling would receive such good treatment. It was too enviable. As for Du Cho, Wu Zun, Kagura, and the others, they were coldly glaring at Lin Ling, seeing Lin Ling reap the benefits. They felt extremely uncomfortable in their hearts. This was especially true for Du Cho and Wu Zun. They were the most furious because the spear belonged to Prince Mo Jin. This meant that they wouldn't be able to take revenge in the near future. And this was all because of Lin Ling. The two exchanged glances with one another. They had already decided that if they had the chance, they would definitely teach Lin Ling a lesson. Meanwhile, the auction continued. Young Master Yao, Yu, and the others bid for the treasures they were interested in. Throughout the process, no one competed with them, as the treasures weren't anything special. Furthermore, more and more divine artifacts were auctioned off. However, Lin Ling and the others were not interested in any of the treasures, so they did not bid for them, until a great treasure was taken out. The godly treasure known as the Underworld Key, a pill refined from countless life fragments, the 1,000 Years Chronicle pill, a godly pill left behind from the era of the gods. It is the true inheritance of Miao Shun, and no one has been able to refine it until now due to the limited materials available. This pill has the effect of curing all kinds of poisons, and can increase the chances of breaking through to the martial progenitor realm by 30%. Even if one dies after failing to break through, there is still a 40% chance of resurrection. Therefore, it is also known as the Underworld Key, meaning that after entering the underworld, one can return with the key. The old man's voice echoed, followed by a pill that slowly rose into the air. The pill had gathered the 1,000 Years Chronicle pill, which contained countless life fragments. The moment it appeared, the crowd held their breaths. Apart from the divine artifacts, it was most likely the most valuable treasure in the auction, curing all kinds of poisons, increasing the chances of breaking through to the martial progenitor realm by 30%. Even if one dies, there is still a 40% chance of resurrection. Wasn't this a godly pill that could reverse the situation? The starting price is 10 billion monarch crystals, and each increment is 1 billion monarch crystals. 12 billion monarch crystals. The Marquis Mansion will be taking this godly pill for 15 billion monarch crystals. The price of the godly pill skyrocketed as soon as it appeared. Damn it, a heavenly stairway expert on the god ranking, ranked 210th, 18 billion monarch crystals, who dares to compete with me? It was as if the entire auction had gone crazy. Many experts on the 8th floor were enraged. Although they had countless monarch crystals, they were not qualified to compete with the others, as they were on the 8th floor, curing all kinds of poisons. Meanwhile, on the 9th floor, Du Chio's eyes were burning with passion. He had come here today for the godly pill. Because he was severely injured when he entered the ethereal tower, he needed the godly pill to cure his injuries. Moreover, he could use the godly pill to raise his talent by another grade. Therefore, he was determined to get it. If anyone dared to compete with him, he might even kill them. Du Qiu of the new heavenly court, 20 billion monarch crystals. Whoever dares to compete with me will be going against Wentian martial god. Wentian martial god has his eyes on this godly pill, Du Qiu said in a cold voice. His aura that seemed to come from the netherworld spread across the entire 9th floor. As soon as his words fell, the 9th floor fell into silence, and the experts' faces changed drastically. Wentian martial god? He had his eyes on this godly pill, and he wanted it by name. This time, no one dared to speak, and there was only endless regret on their faces. Seeing this, Du Qiu couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. The martial god's reputation was indeed powerful. Suddenly, he looked at fuming Gold Emperor and smiled disdainfully. Sirs, this godly pill belongs to me. If you're not convinced, you can try bidding for it. Saying this, his face was filled with pride. Putting aside Wentian martial god's reputation, the 20 billion monarch crystals were enough for Lin Ling and the others to swallow their pride. Come and compete with me. Having this thought, Du Qiu glanced at Lin Ling provocatively. Hee, since brother Du Qiu has spoken, I'm interested in this godly pill. At this moment, Lin Ling finally spoke. Besides, the godly pill could increase the chances of breaking through to the martial progenitor realm. Lin Ling would not miss out on this opportunity. However, the crowd was startled hearing his words. Du Qiu was startled too. You're interested in it? That's right, I'm interested in it, so it's mine. Lin Ling nodded. Du Qiu's eyes glittered. You're not bidding for it? No need. Lin Ling nodded once again. Haha. Chapter 3588. The Consequence of Talking Too Much. Previously, Lin Ling had at least paid a price for Duan Wuzhan's treasure. Now, he was snatching his own treasure without paying a single cent. Was he dreaming? Did he want to buy a divine pill without paying a single cent? It was possible for him to buy a strand of hair. The Millennium Chronicles pill belongs to this young friend. However, before Du Qiu could finish laughing, the old man's voice rang out. Du Qiu was dumbfounded. Of course, he was not the only one. Everyone was dumbfounded. Lin Ling had snatched a divine artifact first. That was one thing, but now he was getting a divine pill without paying a single cent? Was this a joke? Only the old man had a solemn expression because not long ago, someone had reminded him that if a young man with a supreme token wanted to buy anything, then Heaven Sword City would pay for it. Since Heaven Sword City was the host of this auction, then God Miao's true inheritance would naturally give them some face. In addition, the young man's background was not small. He was equivalent to the dean's identity, so the Heaven Sword City would give him even more face. All right, the next treasure is the 4 Symbols Poison Battle Axe. It's one of the 10 great divine artifacts. The old man put away his thoughts and said again. The auction house gradually quieted down. Many people secretly stared at Lin Ling. Their gazes gradually turned from mockery to seriousness. The auction house had already given Lin Ling face twice. This meant that Lin Ling was not simple. Ah, my divine pill. Du Qiu was stunned. He wanted to ask the old man, but he was afraid of ending up like Duan Wuzhan. So he slapped himself crazily. Slap. The sound of the slap was crisp. Damn it, I told you to talk too much. I told you to talk too much. Slap. His face was swollen. If you don't talk too much, this divine pill will be mine. Slap. One of his teeth fell out. My divine pill, my divine pill. Du Qiu was dying. Because of his big mouth, his purpose of coming here today was gone. That was because he was here for the divine pill. The other treasures were useless to him. Most importantly, Lin Ling would at most use the divine pill to break through to the martial ancestor realm. However, if he obtained the divine pill, not only could he detoxify the poison, he could also upgrade his ultimate desolate body by 1 grade. First, it was known that the upgrade of the desolate ultimate desolate body was harder than one's desolate realm. When he thought of this, Du's heart was bleeding. How pitiful. After Duan Wuzhan, Lin Ling's desolate. Someone looked at Du Qiu helplessly and said inwardly, perhaps this is the consequence of talking too much. In fact, that was indeed. That was because Duan Wuzhan and Lin Ling had a feud. Lin Ling would definitely snatch his treasures. As for Du Qiu, although Lin Ling did not like him, Du Qiu's arrogant provocation caused Lin Ling to take the initiative to attack. Of course, if there was a treasure that caught his eye, even if the other party did not provoke him, Lin Ling would still take the initiative to attack. And in the auction, many people noticed Lin Ling's uniqueness. No one dared to offend Lin Ling. Even when they were interested in treasures, they would look at Lin Ling before bidding. Only when they saw Lin Ling's indifferent attitude did they heave a sigh of relief. Although Lin Ling was arrogant and despicable, at least, Lin Ling did not take all the divine artifacts for himself. This made them very happy. How could they know that Lin Ling could only buy 3 free treasures? Naturally, he would only buy the treasures that caught his eye. The treasure was not valuable, but it was suitable for him. Ominous Heart, the heart of the weeping demon. If this person is from the final world, I think most people have heard of this name. Of course, I will also explain it here. The weeping demon was a great demon of the final world. He was once invited by the 9 states' 10 ferocious demon sects, but he was an expert who refused to join the great demon sects. He was the only person in the final world who was killed by a god because he was also the first person who dared to be cruel and ruthless in the final world and killed countless people. This person's strength was monstrous and ferocious. After he died, his heart was left behind and was taken away by Miao Shen's true inheritance. Originally, he wanted to refine it into a treasure, but in the end, no one wanted to refine it, so this treasure was taken out for auction. The old man's voice kept drifting out. Hearing this, everyone's expression became serious. A demon who was killed by a god was really terrifying. The starting price is 5 billion royal crystals. Each bid is 500 million, 6 billion, 7 billion. In a short period of time, a large number of voices were heard. However, Wu Zun frowned and stared at the ominous heart. Wu Zun, are you still not going to make a move? Du Cho, who was standing beside him, asked indifferently. He could see that Wu Zun seemed to have taken a fancy to the ominous heart because Wu Zun cultivated the Arhat divine body. He still lacked the ominous Arhat's heart. I want to make a move, but I'm afraid. Wu Zun frowned. You're afraid that Lin Ling will come and make trouble again? Speaking of Lin Ling, Du Chao's face was filled with anger. Humph, he snatched a treasure and got another one for free. Is he going to get a third one for free? You're right. Wu Zun's eyes lit up instantly. He glanced at Lin Ling and saw Lin Ling's solemn expression, which made him excited. Is Lin Ling really not going to get a third one for free? That's great, the ominous heart is mine. 10 billion royal crystals. Wu Zun's outspoken bid caused an uproar in the auction house. Although the ominous heart was an extremely rare item, it was useless to most people. Hence, 10 billion royal crystals was obviously a huge price to pay. From this, one could see how much Wu Zun valued the ominous heart. However, after making the bid, Wu Zun did not dare to look at Lin Ling. He was afraid that he would provoke Lin Ling. The surroundings were silent. It seemed that the ominous heart was going to belong to Wu Zun. This made Wu Zun almost roar to the sky. He was so excited that his eyes were wet. I'll take this ominous heart for 1 royal crystal. However, his excitement was immediately met with cold water because Lin Ling had already made a bid. Of course, he was not targeting Wu Zun. The main thing was that the ominous heart would be of great help to Lin Ling. It had a strong ominous aura and was very suitable for the realm-swallowing beast. Wu Zun was stunned. His heart exploded as if endless thunder had struck his brain. He roared, Lin Ling, you're doing this on purpose. Obviously, he thought that Lin Ling was purposely giving him a hard time. His words stunned Lin Ling. However, he smiled faintly. So what if I'm doing it on purpose? You want to bite me? If you don't like it, then come at me. Ah! Looking at the arrogant Lin Ling, Wu Zun was so angry that he ground his teeth and swallowed them into his stomach. This was because he was the same as Du Cho. He came to the auction because he wanted a treasure and was determined to get it. However, in the end, it was snatched away. This meant that this auction had nothing to do with him anymore. Next, he would have to wait for the auction in 100 years. Therefore, how could he not be angry? Most importantly, Lin Ling did it on purpose. He even said arrogantly, if you don't like it, then come and bite me. If the auction house could bite, then Wu Zun would have bitten him. Haha, great. Young Beast Master and Mo Jinzi exchanged glances. They were extremely happy. Chapter 3589. The Treasure of the Auction, Moonlight Godly Water. Many people had also noticed this, and were secretly relieved that they were lucky that they were not the enemy of that young man. They were even looking forward to the appearance of a fourth unlucky person. As for Lin Ling, he helplessly shook his head. In truth, he only had 2 precious chances left. So, he couldn't waste a chance because of his grudge. The reason he bought Ominous Heart was because Lin Ling really needed it. So, this Wu Zun was really unlucky. He just happened to encounter a treasure that caught his eye. The auction continued. The 10 great divine weapons finally had their owners. However, everyone's eyes were focused because the auction was coming to an end. It was time for the real treasure of the auction. The old man's face turned serious. He raised his hands, and a jade bottle floated out from behind him. The jade bottle was sparkling and mysterious, as if it contained some kind of divine treasure. Moonlight godly water. This is the treasure of God Miao's true inheritance. Basically, every world spiritist who has reached the level of world spiritist has used it. It comes from the moonlight godly tree, and only drips a drop every 10,000 years. However, in these years, no one from God Miao's true inheritance has advanced to the level of world spiritist. Thus, there is a lot of moonlight godly water. Today, I will take out a bottle to auction. Since everyone is unfamiliar with the effects of moonlight godly water, let me explain. This godly water can provide powerful soul power. As for how much it can increase, it depends on each person's luck and comprehension. The higher the soul power, the greater the increase. The starting price is 50 billion Emperor crystals. Each bid is 10 billion. As the old man's voice faded, the auction house became silent. The jade bottle quietly opened and a ray of moonlight shot out from it. It was extremely magical. Wow! Countless people were moved. Although the world valued talent the most, soul power was a mysterious thing. Having it was better than not having it. Most importantly, soul power was very difficult to increase. Thus, to some world spiritists and alchemists, moonlight godly water was priceless. Moreover, although soul power seemed useless, according to the ancient records of the era of gods, those with powerful soul power could predict the future. They could innately sense the arrival of danger. Although this saying was not confirmed, it was undeniable that soul power was indeed a good thing and suitable for everyone. In an instant, many people's eyes were burning as if the jade bottle was theirs. Of course, this was just a thought. After all, not to mention anything else, just 50 billion monarch crystals wasn't something that just anyone could take out. 60 billion. However, there were still people who bid. 80 billion. 100 billion. 150 billion. The price slowly rose and finally reached 150 billion, causing many people's expressions to change drastically. For a moment, no one dared to bid. When the crowd looked carefully, they discovered that the bidder this time was actually a white-faced man. This caused many people to be astonished. That guy who looked as handsome as Jade actually had so many imperial crystals? That's not right. They're working together. Suddenly, someone noticed something. It turned out that the pale-faced man, Du Cho, Wu Zun, and the others' emperor crystals had joined hands. No wonder it was like this. That white-faced man is called Kagura. He is an expert from the Snow Wind Academy. He is stronger than Du Cho and the others. Someone recognized the white-faced man. At this moment, the white-faced man faintly smiled as he looked at the crowd. He suddenly opened his mouth and said, "I am Kagura. The main reason I bought this moonlight sacred water was because someone asked me to. And that person's background isn't small. He is the Dean of Sky Travel Academy." His words were like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. After all, in the final world, the deans of the 36 academies had a high status. Their status in the final world was higher than the 10 martial gods. The reason for this was very simple, because the deans worked for the gods and the 10 martial gods worked for themselves. Moreover, the deans were very close to God Miao's true disciples. They had a good relationship with each other. Therefore, if a dean wanted the moonlight godly water, who would dare to compete with him? Sky Travel Academy. This academy seems to be very good at boundary spirit talismans. No wonder the dean wants the moonlight godly water. However, as a dean, he wants someone else to buy the treasure he wants. This is a bit shameless. Yeah. Moreover, he doesn't want people from his own academy to buy it. He wants people from other academies to buy it. Is he afraid of bringing shame to his own academy? I think so. Alas, since the dean has come forward, who would dare to compete with them? The dean is a big shot with the same status as the city lord. Many people sighed. Although they were angry, they did not dare to say anything. So much nonsense. Now, who dares to compete with me? Kagura looked at everyone with contempt. In fact, She only knew the Sky Travel Academy's dean after the event. She also knew that the dean was once a member of the Flying Dragon organization. Therefore, in the Sky Travel Academy, as long as one was a member of the Flying Dragon organization, they would be given priority. Unfortunately, Kagura found out too late. Otherwise, she would have joined the Sky Travel Academy instead of the Snow Wind Academy. Now that the Sky Travel Academy's dean asked her to do something, she would definitely do it well. As for the auction hall, it was completely silent. No one dared to compete with the dean. Even the Duke did not dare to. Seeing the silence, Kagura shook her head in contempt. Her heart was indescribably carefree. It had been a long time since she encountered such a shocking scene. Her gaze suddenly fell on Lin Ling. Lin Ling, don't you have special privileges? Aren't you very fierce? What, you dared to compete with me? Everyone's gaze immediately followed, and then many people shook their heads. Although many people noticed that Lin Ling seemed to have some special privileges, the person who came forward this time was the dean. Lin Ling's special privileges were obviously useless in front of the dean. Unless the dean of the Snow Wind Academy came, he would still have some qualifications. After all, only the other deans could go against the dean. Of course, they also hoped that Lin Ling would be able to do well, because they looked down on the Sky Travel Academy's dean's action of letting others buy things for him. Haha, he wouldn't dare. He definitely wouldn't dare. Lin Ling, admit defeat. Do you still think you're the Heavenly King? Du Cho and Wu Zun suddenly roared. It turned out that they already knew about this, so they lent money to Kagura. They even specifically instructed Kagura to ruthlessly suppress Lin Ling. Seeing this, Lin Ling could not help but shake his head. This undoubtedly made Du Cho and the rest laugh even more happily. If Duan Wuzhan was here, he would probably be the same, because Lin Ling was finally trampled under their feet. Admitting defeat just like that, what a piece of trash, coward. Seeing Lin Ling shake his head, Kagura was also extremely happy. Chapter 3590. Not qualified. It was as if Kagura had vented half of all the grievances and depression she had suffered in the Holy Palace. Moreover, he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He wanted to ruthlessly trample on Lin Ling. Why are you all so worked up? I shook my head, but that doesn't mean I've given up. At this moment, Lin Ling finally spoke. Oh, you mean you're going to bid against us? Was he planning to go against the Sky Conduct Dean? What a joke. What right do you have? Kagura was taken aback. She retracted her smile and shouted sarcastically. Bid? What a joke. I, Lin Ling, need to bid. Hearing that, Lin Ling shook his head. Dean Sky Conduct. If he came personally, then he has the status and qualifications to fight with me. But you? I'm sorry, but you're not qualified. With that, he looked at the auctioneer and calmly said, Senior, I want this moonlight godly water. It's my turn again? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They had heard this sentence many times. And an emperor crystal. However, before they could recover from their shock, Lin Ling spoke again. An imperial crystal? Moonlight divine water, which was worth 15 trillion royal crystals, was being sold for one piece? Without any suspense, Lin Ling's words were earth-shattering, shaking the heavenly sword pagoda so much that it began to sway. Many people thought that Lin Ling's arrogance was boundless. This caused Kagura, Du Cho, and the others' jaws to drop. Previously, Lin Ling had prioritized snatching treasures, and then he used one emperor crystal to buy 2 more treasures. Most importantly, these 2 treasures were snatched from Du Cho and Wu Zun's hands. Now, the moonlight godly water was a priceless treasure that was worth 15 trillion monarch crystals. Most importantly, it was a treasure that Dean Sky Conduct had his eyes on. Lin Ling still wanted to snatch it? Dream on. The 3 of them looked at each other, and the corners of their mouths curled into cold smiles. They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. The entire auction house was silent. Many people were looking at Lin Ling. Most of them did not believe what they had heard this time either. Even the old man frowned. He wanted to buy the moonlight divine water with 1 imperial crystal? Wasn't that an insult to the Miao God's true inheritance? Furthermore, this was a treasure that the Sky Conduct Academy's dean had specifically asked for. Although he didn't know the dean, he still had to give him face. However, he suddenly thought of the Snow Wind Supreme Token. It seemed that seeing the dean was the same as seeing the dean. This meant that unless Dean Sky Conduct came in person, Kagura's status wouldn't be as high as Lin Ling's by relying on her mouth. After all, Lin Ling held the supreme snow wind token, which represented the dean's arrival. Furthermore, he thought of what the servant girl had said to him before. Lin Ling had the snow wind supreme token and could buy treasures for free 3 times. All the prices were paid by the Heaven Sword City Lord. The Heaven Sword City was ranked in the top 10 among the 36 main cities. It was more than 10 times stronger than the other city lords. Other city lords couldn't take out 100 billion imperial crystals, but to the Heaven Sword City Lord, this wasn't a big deal at all. Moreover, rumor had it that when the Heaven Sword City Lord was still a student of the academy, he had found a secret realm and obtained a large number of treasures. Among them were countless imperial crystals. While he was thinking, Kagura sneered, "Lin Ling, you want to buy the Moonlight Divine Water with 1 imperial crystal? Let me tell you, it's impossible." With that, he looked at the old man and said politely, "Senior, give me the Moonlight Divine Water. I have the Sky Conduct Academy's verbal instructions." His voice interrupted the old man's thoughts, and he immediately walked out with the Moonlight Divine Water. Haha! Seeing this, Kagura was overjoyed and made a gesture with both hands. However, the old man suddenly changed direction halfway and looked at Lin Ling. Then he raised his hands, and the jade bottle containing the Moonlight Divine Water floated towards Lin Ling. This time, Kagura was dumbfounded. She kept rubbing her eyes to see if she was seeing things. Everyone in the auction house was the same. They were all rubbing their eyes. A single piece of royal crystal could really buy a treasure in a treasure chest. Moreover, he was snatching it from the academy head's hands. Am I fucking dreaming? Kagura was stunned for a long time before she finally spoke in disbelief. I declare that the Moonlight Divine Water belongs to that person. As if he knew that Kagura was in disbelief, the old man pointed at Lin Ling and said indifferently, "Wow, one can really buy a treasure with 1 imperial crystal. That's amazing. If that's the case, then Lin Ling's reputation is even greater than the dean's. Tisk tsk, it seems that there is indeed a 4th unlucky person. That Kagura is that person." Now it seems that Duan Wuzhan, Ducho, Wuzun, and Kagura all returned empty-handed. Shocked voices instantly resounded throughout the auction house. Everyone's mouths were wide open. If Lin Ling had snatched someone's treasure once, it would still be acceptable. However, he had done it 4 times in a row. It was impossible not to be surprised. Moreover, the people who had been robbed were all students of the academy. Could it be that those students had a grudge against Lin Ling? Unfortunately, no one knew that the 4 people who had been robbed did indeed have a grudge against Lin Ling. "Senior, did you give the Moonlight Divine Water to the wrong person? This Moonlight Divine Water has been reserved, and the owner is the Academy head of Sky Travel." At some point, Kagura was deceiving herself that this was a misunderstanding. Even if she was beaten to death, she would never believe that the Academy head's name was inferior to Lin Ling's. "Senior, the Academy heads of the 36 academies are all extraordinary. It's not good to offend anyone." Kagura's words were even more threatening. "I've already said that the Moonlight Divine Water belongs to that sire." The old man indifferently glanced at Kagura, then pointed at Lin Ling on the 9th floor. How could he not know the meaning behind Kagura's words? However, everything was as he thought. If the Academy head of Sky Travel was here, he would give him face. However, if it was just a verbal order, then it definitely couldn't be compared to Lin Ling in person. He believed that if it was anyone else who was a true disciple of Miao Shun, they would make the same choice as him. "Little friend, I know that you're unwilling, but our auction house has already made a decision. Of course, I can also tell you that if the Academy head of Sky Travel was here, we would definitely give the Moonlight Divine Water to him." The old man said again, "If that's the case, then why don't you give the Moonlight Divine Water to me now?" Kagura was getting more and more anxious. This was an important matter that the Academy head of Sky Travel had entrusted to her. If she didn't do it well, the Academy head would be disappointed in her. She didn't want to see that happen. "I've already said that if the Academy head is here, then it's still possible. However, if it's you, you're not qualified." The old man didn't care about Kagura's attitude, but he still said indifferently, "Not qualified." Kagura's mouth was wide open. She was fuming with anger. "I'm not qualified. I have the Academy head of Sky Travel's verbal order, and I'm a top expert of the 3rd hall. I can't compare to a mere Lin Ling. So that's how it is. That you're tuning in to the Blee Maze Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.